Oh, I guess I'm in the wrong view again. Am I right side up or sideways? Howdy, howdy, ho. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be. I am your humble servant, uh, David Null, also known as Hawkeye Two Feathers, and I greet you with the love and the honor of the infinite Creator, and I hope that you're doing well. So, Seeker of Truth and Big Dad, how are you? Hoping that everything is all right. Let me get this. I'm still having issues with computers and live streams on YouTube. I just did a live stream with Robert, and you know, we used StreamYard, and I used the computer, and everything works fine, and so now I have to resort to the cell phone to utilize YouTube, and the YouTube has deleted a bunch of my videos without my knowledge or excuse or anything. So I really want to learn how to use Rumble because I'm just tired of this mess. Fighting, 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 fighting. I know I'm grateful to YouTube to allow me um, to do these videos and to put them up and so forth. So you know it's a shame. It used to be so easy, and it used to be up there, and you used to be before I realized I've been doing this for 9 years. So this I'm not new at this, and I've been here for the last 9 years. So I've been here through the progression of things. They've taken down many of my videos and put me in YouTube jail because, um, I mentioned something about a mask at some point. So, but anyway, oh God, and I just said the word. But anyway, yeah. Is it time enough? Okay, it's close enough. Yeah. I got one sitting here. I'm ready to burn. So let's have a 20 together, my friends. Cheers. So the title of this particular, montage of thoughts. No, actually, I'm doing popcorn buds. Nope. I did dabs the other night. A dab. I have some dabby stuff that I put on top of it. Uh, I have a thing to do dabs with, but I just like my bowl. I'm just old and set in my ways. Now, popcorn, as in popcorn for the bowl popcorn. I love regular popcorn too, but anyway, that's what Neil Big Dad is. mm. Oh. So I went to therapy again today, and I have got to get myself in better shape. So do not let yourselves go. It is so hard to come back. And y'all know I had my back surgery 2, 3 years ago, and I've been doing all this other stuff. And so, but in between hospital stays and all this other stuff, um, it's like I have just my body has gotten weaker and weaker and weak a little bit at the time. And now that spring's here and I want to go jump in the boat and get in the kayak, I can't do it. I cannot do it. So it's like, go ahead, Doug. So it's like I told a therapist today, young man, I said, He said, "Well, we got to ease into this." I looked at him and said, "There ain't no easing into this." And he was like, "Well, what do you mean? I don't want to hurt you, Mister No." I said, "I've had surgery 2 years ago. I'm still hurting. You're not gonna, you know, hurting me is not the thing. What I'm working on is I need to get strength and strong again because I want to get back in my kayak before I die, And when I get in the kayak, I want to be able to get out of it. So I need to learn how to, you know, uh, what I call high stepping and how to I need to get my arms stronger again and I need to just get my stamina up. And he goes, "Well, we need to ease this in with your back." And I kind of leaned into him and I said, "There ain't no easing in." And he goes, I I can see that. I can see that, Mr. Dell. And I said, "I'm not trying to be belligerent to you, and I will listen to you and I will do the exercises you tell me to do. And but I'm gonna I gotta go high stepping. I gotta be able to get in and out of a kayak and I got to be able to lift my leg up and lift the other one up without falling over. I need to do. I need to get to high stepping. Well, we can't get. He was so cute. He's a big fellow though. Dawson, and I was like, dude, I'm I'm 72. You say go into it easy. I have tried that for the last 2 years. I need to forego the pain. Is that exercise going to hurt? Yep. Well, we don't want you to. No, 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 no. Hell no. I'm going to do that exercise even though it hurts. And you go, but that's insane. And I know. And I go, yeah, it is insane. And that's what brings sanity to the conversation. What? Did you see how I worked into that? At 7 minutes and 25 seconds, into this. Yeah, I'm giving y'all sort of an update, but at the same time, there is a lesson in this, in that some people will look at something that's insane. That's insanity. You want to do what? Blah blah blah. And it's like, yeah, I know. My muscle been hurt. I've had the operations. I've done all that crap. It's time, regardless of my pain level. It's time to get into some other. So even though it sounds like insanity on the um, the physical therapist point of view, um, when he understands that my age, I want to get, I want to get there, regardless of the pain. I want to get there. I want to be able to do it regardless of whether or not it hurts. Because every time I've worked, they go, "Well, we don't want you to hurt too bad. Just go up to the point where you're hurt." Well, that's what I've been doing. So, in the insanity of trying to make me better, it has actually made me more insane. What do you mean, Dave? Well, because I have needed to push past higher than the pain. I've needed to go a step further, even though, Woody, we don't want to hurt you, Mister No. I know. So I'm going to do it for you. you know, Go ahead, show me the exercises, but Mister No, we don't want to hurt you. And I saw, oh, you're so cute, but I'm going to go ahead and do them. Not to be belligerent, but I'm going to go ahead and do them because I need to. Despite the pain, I need to do this. So that's the insanity part of it. So in this life, there are people who, they have an insanity clause. And you go, Dave, what's that? Well, it's sort of like Santa Claus, but it's an insanity, and an insanity clause. Okay, Hawkeye, what do you mean? Well, if it seems like what they're doing is too crazy, they, like in court, they throw the flag. It's, they throw the insanity plea, So there are people, a lot of people, who, and they don't really know it, but they have an insanity clause within them, right? If something in life gets too hairy, they throw in the towel, you know? They throw it, well, it's not really insane, but it is. Because the person who needs to drop out and say and throw in the towel, it has made them insane to a point. My sister's legs were supposed to be paralyzed nerve endings time, but here I'm 6 years later walking. Oh, that's good. Had surgery to fix them. Ho ho ho! Hey, John. Yeah. See, with my puppets, I had a Santa Claus. I kept saying it wrong, and one of my bonehead puppets would always get it wrong, and he'd go, "Oh, there's the insanity clause," I wish I had an insanity clause in my contract. Anyway, it was a rolling joke for me, and the puppets. you know, yeah, it's good to see all of yous. You know, you good, Duggar? I might have to go let him out so he'll. Oh, okay. So, but anyway, um, so there are things that when I was first learning about farming, when I first moved up here to Georgia, like, what is he doing that for? And how come blah, 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 And after a year or so of being around the farm and seeing what was going on, you realize that, I was looking at things in the short term, you know, and farmers and friends and stuff were all looking at things in the long term. We're going to put these in the ground and we're going to do this and they're going to come up and then we're going to go collect them and then we're going, but to everything, there was a season to it, and, you worked hard to keep, you know, you worked hard to keep the field plowed, so the weeds didn't take over. You worked hard to, before you laid the field by that it got a boost of nitrogen and some other fertilizer kind of stuff so it would grow on up, And then you prayed for good weather so that whatever you were harvesting, didn't rot in the field or that it was too hot and your produce dried up in the field, So, but in learning how to deal with all of those things, there's a certain degree of insanity at every level. Well, the crop's coming up good, and then a damn storm comes by, or not. But I mean, so you don't know from day to day. So, but in the insanity of we don't know what's next, there is sanity in it for the farmers because they love what they do, kind of thing, right? So you say, well, wait a minute, that don't make no sense. Right. That's what I mean by their sanity from the insanity of things. Well, there's chaos going on around us right now, like you would not believe, right? It's the insanity, right? It's the insanity of them, the, them lefty loonies, I'm sorry. But, they want to throw Molotov cocktails and stuff. I mean, that hasn't really happened since the Hungarian Revolution, and over in Ukraine. I mean, what? And I'm sorry, I don't care what you think about, Elon Musk, but throwing Molotov cocktails at anything is pure insanity that does not lead to anything that's sane. That kind of insanity is just insanity. Is there anything positive going to come out of that? No, because it didn't affect Elon. It affected the car dealership. It affected the for all the damage to those cars. It damaged the people, not Elon. Didn't affect the company, not a bit. So the insanity of what these folks are doing does not end up with a sane outcome. You see what I mean? So there are other things that you can say, well, the insanity is, the restructuring of, these. Let me let him out. Duggar, hang on. Duggar, let me let you out. Come on. Come on, go this way. Don't knock me over. Come on. Come on. Go out. Hang on. Don't knock me over. Go on. He is so he is so jumpy and excited that he almost knocks me down, and he runs back and forth beside me in the dark. I'm like, cut it out. Yeah, you're going to hurt me, but anyway. So, um, the insanity comes in different ways and different levels. Like, for example, if you're working for a construction company, like my friend, they're building houses and so forth. So they get a big pile of lumber, right? The cement truck backs up, right? You're pouring cement, you're unloading the wood, and and the foreman says, "We're going to build a house." Well, great. And we're going to build it right over there. Okay. Because now you're pouring the floor. And as you start to pour the floor, you can kind of get a general idea of how big the house is going to be because of the floor and everything. And you can tell where the pipes are coming up, like where the kitchen's going to be and where the bathroom's going to be, right? So, and you can tell, like there's a little porch over here, and that's probably the front door. And there's a little spot in the back because it's in the back where the backyard should be. So you can kind of tell that there's going to be a house there. But until they poured that floor, it was just a field, right? So somebody came by and looked at that field and looked at the neighborhood and said, I've got an idea to put a house there. And I've got an idea of the type of house I would like to build here. Now, from somebody in the neighborhood, they go, that man's insane. He wants to build a house, you know? Yeah, he's going to build a house there. Yeah. Oh man. So folks in the neighborhood, they're scratching their heads and blah, 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 you know. So then, so that's insanity to them. Now, the workers that come up to work on the house, now they have not seen the floor plans. They've not seen what the house is supposed to look like. It said I reconnected. Can you see me now? It just reconnected me. So can oh, so I'm back? Okay, I'm sorry. So y'all missed all that good stuff. Oh, the church, that they were going to build it. The sticks blew down. Oh well, that was a good story. Yeah, with the insanity. Um, see, I've been telling you, YouTube's been, trying to keep me off of here, and there I was. Everything was hunky dory, going just fine, and then what? You know, actually, no, I didn't curse, but I was thinking about it. I'm the right side too. So sometimes the insanity is people who don't know what the big picture is. It's like chicken cartels. Hey, Seeker. Yeah, I'm back. I don't know what happened, but the my cell phone went reconnected. Okay, dokie there. So, do you see, as a general question to y'all, where people are going insane over things because they don't understand what the long term goal of something can be, could be, would be, or whatever? It's like, how come football players have to, start rehearsing and practicing 6 weeks before their first game so they can get in shape, so they can practice with one another, so they can become a formidable football team, a team, right? So, but if you just saw the chaos of a bunch of guys running around on the field throwing a football or whatever and doing exercises, you wouldn't know that in 6 weeks' time that these folks were going to be a football team. Now, they might not be a very good football team, but at any point, at some point, the folks that came out turned out for practice, they're going to be a team because that's their goal. But somebody watching it from someplace else don't know. Same thing with other things. Somebody's out there, in a field, and his name's Johnny. My name's Johnny, and I gonna anyway. Um, I'm gonna tell you, yeah, I hate putting. Oh God, me too, John. Oh God, football practice in August during dog days. Oh God. Oh, I can feel it now. Oh my God. And at Tampa Catholic out there in the field that we practiced on, there was a church across the street from us that had I don't know, it was like 10 feet wide and it looks like a chimney on the outside. And it just went up above the roof line of the church, above the peak. And they had a cross on it that was lit. And at the top of it there were two uh, um, lightning rods, one on either side of this of the rectangle up there, right? Well, lightning used to hit them puppies all the damn time, and we're out there practicing, and it's raining. We're or muddy shoes. I mean, God Almighty, it was rough, and made us tough though. And coach would say, "Well, if lightning hits that church in about that time, pow!" And you could smell the sulfur. It was a couple hundred yards, away from us. But coach would say, "Well, if it hits it a second time," and about 10 minutes later, pow! Okay, let's take it in. But they wouldn't let us go. They was so crazy. You know, well, the lightning already struck right there, so we're good for a little while, so we could stay out and practice some more. And then when that lightning hit it again, well, okay, guys, it was crazy. But so looking at the insanity, none of us died, but Tampa is known for people getting struck by lightning, right? So we were really taking a chance out there. Um, but people looking at us were going, they're crazy. They're out there sloshing in, I mean, mud. Ruined that field. We did, practicing and sliding and everything, and tackling, and we were covered with mud from head to toe. And not once, but several times practicing out there on that field. And so, but to this day now, I don't know about my fellow compadres that played football, but I've been in some instances that was rainy and wet and muddy and mud up to my knees and stuck in a situation, and I'm like, it's raining, maybe it's a bad tire. I got caught on a dirt road one time, and it turned to sludge, so but I've, I've I've been able to work through every single one of them. But at the time you get stuck and you're sitting in the car and it's raining outside and it's thundering and lightning, and the road was, a little damp when it started raining. And now, after 10 minutes, the road has turned into a river. And when you start the vehicle again and try to move forward, all it does is spin. And you realize you're stuck. You realize that just because you waited on the rain for a few minutes, it rained so hard, and it does this in Tampa, it does so down in South Georgia too. And it's called a gully washer, you know, or I love to say it's a frog strangler. And so it rains so hard that a frog that's croaking, he fills up it, and drowns him. So um, that brings insanity into the picture. It's insane that it rains so hard that I just stopped for a minute, and now the road's so bad it's turned into a river. Oh my God. And this has happened a couple of times to me. And I'm thinking of my brother Danny, how we got out of a mess up there in northeast Georgia, right in the corner of Tennessee, North Carolina, and South Carolina up there, to my brother Danny. Hey, but smoke one for Danny. Hey, let's light this one for Danny. I still haven't heard about the car yet, but I've got my truck working pretty good, and I've been working back on the boat again, and I should be able to finish up the boat tomorrow, and which means I'm gonna, hey, Puddin', hello, how are you? Went to community school myself. What? Yeah, R.I.P. Dan. But in the world of the quantum, he's still there. You know. So yeah, and I I really do. I keep thinking about what my sister said. And she said, David, I walked in there and he hadn't been passed but 5 minutes. His body was still warm, and she said he had a smile on his face. She said it was almost comical. And I'm like, I hope I look like that when I go, versus, you know. Um, but to see a smile on his face and in an almost comical situation, cheers. All right, brother. Cheers. You got a smile on your face. All right. Looking forward to that. You know what I mean? A smile on your face. So, but anyway, um, I don't know if I've mentioned it to y'all, but one of the reasons why I'm kicking this kayak and canoe, I realized why I want to do it so bad. And I'm kind of in a hurry because it's already the 1st of April. Well, next week. And I still haven't got back on the river yet. You know what I mean? And it's going to get warm quick. It already is. So it's like I got to do this. I want to do an adventure. Oh, why do I want to do an adventure? I want to do an adventure um, for my brother. I want to do an adventure in honor of my brother, even though I don't have his ashes. I don't know what I would throw out on the water or what, anything like that. But I would take the drum and I would light a fire and drum. And it would be in honor of my brother. Um, and since he was in the Navy, it would be appropriate to be in a canoe, at least, you know what I mean? A boat. So, and the fact that we used to float down the rivers around here in our canoes, um, and we bought a boat together at one time. Um, so to that end, and I realized it today doing the therapy, and I told the therapist, I said, in this high stepping thing, I said, I got to be able to get in and out of the kayak. I got to be able to get in and out of the canoe without tripping and falling in the water and drowning. But it's like, and I need to be stronger. And the hell with this hurting business. You need to show me some stuff so I can go ahead and work on it and get there, pain or not, right? And that's the truth. So it's like but why am I in such a hurry? I ain't getting any younger. Summer's almost here. And if I've got maybe 2 weeks of getting healthier and stronger, then I know a place on the river. Actually, I know a couple of places to go take the canoe and the dog and the tent and and go do a drum at night and do a little fishing, maybe a little catfishing, in honor of Danny, and smoke a bowl or two, because we didn't get a chance to do anything like that. And as I've been thinking about it, you know, I realized that his son probably did the right thing by just taking him and down there and putting him on a shelf, in the mausoleum. Um, but it did deny all of us that sense of closure. So I was okay with it until this week, and I guess at the end of last week. And thinking about my sister and the fact that she's got to go through, stuff to try to get the car that he wanted us to have and the things that this and that. And, and that skunt of a woman that, wanted to interfere. It just, all of these things, over the death of a person, and I know there are a lot of people who go through this kind of stuff when someone dies. I thought this was going to be an easy one. But anyway, So I could see where Danny's spirit would be restless because of that crazy woman that used to be his wife, right? And that he'd be on the other side going, "Oh, God Almighty, she's messing with me up here, is it? Oh, oh, it's only 1 o'clock. It's 12 o'clock my time. Yeah, 12 o'clock my time. Oh, Steve Clark, how are you? And Whiteout. Steve, I was thinking about you the other day. And but things have just been kind of coming and going and in and out. And I got your phone number somewhere. And but anyway, but I've been thinking about you and sending you prayers. Honest to God. I'm not trying to, you know, pull your leg, but honest to God. Whiteout, how are you? How is it in your neck of the woods? So, but anyway, so there is a lot of insanity going on right now, right? And with the president, and with this person, and with that thing, with this stuff, and oh, they did, they messed up the other day. Whoops, come to find out it was last week. Oh, come to find out that whatever they talked about um, was not of any specific origin. Have you listened to what they, Tulsi and all them? This is what they talked about. Okay, where was there anything top secret in what they talked about? Nothing. They talked about a generality. Well, we need to do this sooner than later. Yeah, okay. Um, well, maybe we should wait a little while. Well, okay, but if you decide to do it, I'm good. You know, okay. Well, what do you think? Blah blah blah. Well, all right. Uh, that was a secret. That was the big plan that got let out. That was the big super duper. Oh God, dog, grow a pair, will ya? And these people who are trying to make it more than what it is. I watched Tulsi Gabbard sit there while that senator was grilling her, and she had answered no. And he said, "Well, why don't you give us the transcript, and let us read it for ourselves?" And I was thinking to myself, the two of them have already answered, really. But to the fact that she's like, no, damn it, because they might have said something during their conversation that might have been condescending to someone. So they didn't want the text version of this thing to come out because they might have been not, they weren't saying anything top secret. They were probably putting down that senator. And so they don't want to publish it because they were talking bad about somebody. So now there is this insanity. This is all tied in. And to make Tulsi look bad, to make all these other people look bad. And it's like, sorry, but pay attention. A bobcat in a tree? You got to be careful of them, really. Um, what happened, Wilo? I missed. I'm trying to read, but not. So anyway, but in this confusion, secret truth, yep, that happens. We had one of our chicken 2 years back. So to the universe of things, people are creating insanity because they like the Hegelian diametric something something. Um, where, everything has to be in chaos all the time. So, but they're not looking at the bigger picture because, and I've talked about this about chaos before, but in this chaos theory, there's always something that comes out of the chaos. There's always a melody in the chaos. I did a thing of the cacophony of chaos. Yeah, I know. When my son lived up there, it was $10 for a tube of toothpaste kind of thing. So yeah, call Maxwell Smart. There you go. Um, but so these folks that they always want to make something out of nothing, right? And the fact that whatever happened was a week ago, and that they already carried out the the secret thing, and it's like, but people are still gonna, wet their pants, pee their pants, poop in their pants, whatever it is, panties in a knot, um, while they're planning on going to a Tesla dealership and doing something, or wearing signs. Tesla's an ogre, and he's a Hitler, and he doesn't belong here, and so now Maxine Waters was out on the street today again with her little megaphone and saying, if they want to take care of illegals, immigrants, they should start with Melania Trump. And Melania's like, fudge you, bitch. What? And, Melania worked for her uh, citizenship and did all the right things, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And all of the things, if you hear about what she had to go through in her younger life, is good God Almighty. She is a strong woman. No wonder, she's beautiful too, but no wonder, Donnie likes her. And she likes him because he's a strong man. So, okie dokie. But anyway, but these people are picking, they, they can't find anything else. So, Maxine Waters is going to pick on Melania Trump because you should pick on her. She's check her and see if she's illegal and all this other. Oh, Jesus Christ. That's, she's just crazy. Now, she is spewing insanity. But here's the big thing, though. With the insanity that she's spewing, here's the backlash. There are people like me, you know, but there are other people out there that are going, wait a minute, Maxine, you're picking on Melania? All right, now, we're picking on Elon, okay, but you're picking on Melania? Now she didn't do anything. She's the wife of the president, but come on, she didn't do nothing. And she's worked hard, and yes, she's an immigrant. She's an immigrant who is a naturalized citizen. She's here legally, dumbass. And you want to send her back, but anyway, so but that they have to make up a story that somehow we should check to see if Melania is really, here legally, and whether or not there was any hanky panky about getting her. I mean, oh my God. So, but there's chaos right there, right? There's insanity. But the backlash is going to be that the people who want it are going to go, come on, Maxine. Aren't you really pushing it a little far? Aren't you really kind of, you've hit everything now and now you want to pick on Melania? The girls at the View have tried that and she got right back at them, so be careful. And so, and that crazy um, colored lady, I don't want to call her a black woman because it's just like she degrades it. But so there's this colored lady who's, like, my birthday's on the 29th, and for my birthday, I just want to see Elon taken down. And so Pam Bondi said in an interview, she said she needs to be careful of what she says. Honestly, I mean, I watched it and went, oh, that, and that is like, you could probably get her on what she's already said. And if anything happened to Elon on the 29th or so, you'd be up for manslaughter or second degree murder. So, and she said, I don't have anything to apologize for, you know. And so Pam Bondi says, she better watch what she says. Now the Democrats are going, that Crockett lady, I think it is. Um, and she's like, ooh, my birthday's on the 29th, and all I wanted for my birthday is to see Elon taken down. What is that? I want to see Elon taken down. I'm just like calling for murder, ain't it? Taken down. So, but anyway, but when Pam Bondi responded that she better be careful what she says. Now, not because, and now the Democrats all of a sudden, that Pam Bondi is threatening her. And I was like, you're kidding, right? She's making remarks that are very threatening, calling for a person to be taken down. And any other remarks by this woman could be construed as trying to incite a riot. So she should really watch her mouth. So Pam Bondi's like, you got freedom of speech, but you better be careful how you say it. Oh, but the Democrats, oh, Pam Bondi is picking on her. You're kidding, right? She has the right to say whatever she wants, not if it's threatening, and could very well, be, injurious to someone's health or to their life. For ham with the bone is $164 for 9 pounds of ham. Holy shit. We're coming up on a 20. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I buy sliced ham and just whatever it is a pack. I find the cheapest that I can afford that's still a decent piece of ham. So I'm sure that this chaos is going to continue. But I think what it's also doing for those people who were like, questioning some stuff, it's like, I don't think those Democrats are crazy. And now they're going, maybe the Democrats are crazy. They're like, well, you're doing what? You're picking on Melania? Oh, man, come on. You know what? You didn't clap for that little black boy that, got that, Secret Service thing. Did you see that young man hug that Secret Service man? Did you see the way they hugged a black boy hugging a white man? And it was for real. What? Nobody talked about that. They was like, oh, look at him. Yeah, but it's a little black, well, not little, but it's a black boy hugging a grown ass white man. You know, that grown ass white man that's supposed to be slavery and who is, uh, um, 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 that racist, bigoted SOB that, what? So, there is that. So, but the Democrats, they would not applaud that, didn't applaud it. There might have been a couple that secretly were like, well, maybe I could have applauded. But I watched the senator from Georgia, Ossoff, um, grill Tulsi and the other guy. And I'm like, I got to find his address to start sending some nasty mail. But I got to be careful because that can come back on me, right? But I just want to let him know. I thought your performance the other day in the council and how you continuously badgered the witnesses. I can say that. So it all depends on how you say it, right? So anyway, going forward with what's going on, there's going to be a lot of this wordplay, and it's going to be with stuff that's going to go to the Supreme Court, or it's going to be, um, it's going to be different, you know. So there, different states are voting on different things, different constituents, and the idea that John Ossoff, he thinks he knows what us South Georgia rednecks think when he's from up in Atlanta and Columbus area, and it's like, he's a city slicker. And to some of us, he would be that damn Yankee because he doesn't talk like a Southerner, you know. So, but he's our senator, and we got him for a couple more years, right? I think in 26, he's up for election and would really, I'd run against him if I could. I swear to God, if nobody else would run. But so, anywho, these folks in creating their type of structured heresy. Okay, what do I mean by that? Well, they had it took care of. But these guys want to make it something, right? So they make up little lies. They stretch the truth as to what really happened. They ask questions of the witnesses who are like, why don't you release the transcript? If it's not top secret, then release it. Why not? And I could see that Tulsi wanted to answer it is because they probably said something bad about somebody and they did not want to publish the conversation. Now, just because you don't want to publish a conversation doesn't mean that you're hiding a truth or a secret. What you're hiding is your remarks about somebody else that might not even be related to what the original subject is. You might say, that senator from Georgia is a piece of shit. And he's like, I'd rather not y'all publish that. You could redact it. But so here's this senator that keeps badgering and badgering. If you don't want us to, why don't you want us to see it, Miss Gabbard? Why don't you have it published? And she's sitting there, and the more he's badgering her, she's sitting there going, I wouldn't give you the time of day. You know, if you want it so bad, go get it. But the idea that just because they don't want something released doesn't mean that it's about top secret stuff or any secret stuff. They don't want it released because they made an offhand remark about somebody, or they made a comment about something, something, and they don't want that published. Oh, but no, 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 no. These people are hiding something. Yeah, they're hiding the fact that they talked about something that they don't want out there. Has nothing to do with secrets, you know? But can you believe that? No. Well, that's what's happened. If I could trade in my mama's Impala for an old steel body. Oh, I just got a 1987 Ford Ranger in my yard from my next door neighbor, Mr. Ricky. And it quit running, and he couldn't figure out how to fix it. Well, since I went through all that stuff with my truck a couple of years ago, um, I was thinking to myself, the first thing I would do is jack up that truck and cut the catalytic converter out. What, Dave? Well, I replaced literally every single uh, sensor and everything all over the place. Uh, the coil packs, the this thing that, I replaced it. It still wouldn't run. And I waited and I was like, that, if the catalytic converter stopped, I cut that thing out and cranked it up. And it's still running, you know. So, but I bought another catalytic converter and put it on, and it's been running fine. So, but I was going to use the truck for a new fender and lights and things where the deer ate my truck. Um, but at the same time, if I could get the thing running, you know, for the price of a catalytic converter. And I got my old catalytic converter. They say, to just ram a pipe through it and to clean it out and put it back on. Well, now that I have another one, my old one, which would fit on that Ford because they're Cinco de Mayo, simpatico. That's the word. Um, But so now I got a Ford Ranger that's a year older than mine. But when you get the mechanics book, the Haynes book, it's for a Ford Ranger, you know, 86 to 89 or something like that. And there is no uh, repair book for Mazdas because they're just like a Ford Ranger, but they're not. So, but anyway, so I got me a Ford Ranger, and that's interesting. It's got an automatic instead of a standard stick shift, and he said the transmission was fine. Oh, y'all hold that thought. I got to go get. Um, I got to let Duggar in. He ripping the door down. Hang on. Ow, crap. Ow, that hurts. Lord have mercy. Oh, it's a 20. Y'all don't wait on me. I'm coming, Duggar. I made you suffer. I made you suffer. I made you suffer. What are you doing, huh? I made you suffer. Okay, you waited. All right. Good man. It's a 420. Yeah, I'm a backyard mechanic too in the front yard. And I'm trying to get my shop fixed. I got so many things I got to work on, but um, I am moving forward a little bit every day now. And it seemed like I was just stuck. And I've sort of mentioned it to y'all, but in the grand scheme of things, it's like, even though it's like right after the first of the year, it seemed like had a little bit of get up and go, some hey, come on, new year, and Trump's in and he's out, and we got a chance, so positive outlook, but at the same time, I just seemed like I was stuck, and I'm still doing stuff, but even though I'm doing it, it's like I'm moving kind of slower than I am slow now, but I'm even moving slower. No, pick up your pace, stand up straighter. It's like what? And it's almost like my body and my spirit was sort of in a depressed look, like being bent over, and I got my cane, and I'm being the old man kind of thing. And then I'm like, I look myself in the window of a store, and I go, stand up straight. God, what the hell, You know, um, and why are you slouching? And um, so, and for me, it's like, I have not given in at all, but I can say that, I keep striving to just keep up. And I was bicycling with an elderly lady like me and we were just chatting while we were bicycling in the therapy. And we both agreed she's got problems with both of her knees, and she's got a brace to get used to, and that kind of thing. So it's like we agreed that in our old age that uh, we will settle for okay. And you say, what does that mean? Well, this therapy lady was like, how are you going to get better if you don't wear this brace? She goes, I don't like the brace. Well, but if you don't wear the brace, then how are you going to get better? And she was really kind of being nasty to her. And she was like, well, we'll just have to see. And so when the therapist walked off, she looked at me and says, if I don't like it, I don't like it. I don't care if I get better. I just don't want to get worse. And I was like, hey, that's me now. They've worked on my back. I've been doing therapy. I've been trying. I'm not looking to get fixed now. I'm just looking to stay as healthy as possible, right? To not get worse. It might not get better, but I don't want it to get worse. So there are a bunch of us out here that have made up our minds. I'm will probably never get better, but I can maintain what I got. That's a separate story. We've made a career out of cursing engineers. I was an engineer, and I used to curse other engineers because they were so freaking stupid. Um, you don't, y'all don't judge me for what I'm about to say next. I pretend you never saw this, so I cut off moldy pieces and continued to eat it for that day. Yeah, okay. I get some moldy cheese and I just kind of cut around it. Same thing with bread. If I really want a sandwich and I got there's some mold on it, I'll just cut it off. Tastes a little funky. It's got that, I don't know, that real yeasty kind of stuff or something. But yeah, I ate a banana today that other people would have said, "Oh my God, are you gonna eat?" Yeah, I like them that way. Especially with chocolate. Uh, so there are things going on today between the Dems and the reps, and and that's not necessarily, it's the highly strung folk. Man, oh man, and I didn't realize there were so many that are so high strung. That when Biden was, took office and everything, we all went, oh shit, this is going to be a tough 4 years, and we made it. You know, we didn't start fires. We didn't want to kill any. Well, we did sort of want to kill somebody, but we didn't say it out loud. We didn't try it. We didn't try to put him in jail. His son should have been in jail, but he stayed out. There's all these things, and we were all just crazy about watching it go by and not seeing justice. And now that we have justice, those folks that wanted to see justice against Trump and justice about the J6ers don't care about the folks who blew up a Tesla dealership, you know, don't care about the terrorists that they want to take back to, you know, um, South. And they want to claim, oh, those people, they were mistreated. Listen, I've been in prison, all right? When you go into the jail, they strip you down, they hose you down. Here's your clothes. You be naked. They delouse you. They cut your hair just like they showed on TV. And I was like, they didn't really mistreat them guys. Not really. I was mistreated worse than some of them guys. And they're, the Alago people, And I'm like, so what's all these people? Oh, they were mistreated. You shut up. You should see what they do to people here in America in the jails and prison systems. If you think that's bad, go to Louisiana, go to some of the places in Texas. There's a few places still left in Mississippi and Alabama that you go into that jail, oh, honey, you know, you pray to get out of there. So, but they see, oh, they've been mistreated. Mean mistreater, you let me down. Da 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 da. Anyway, oh boy, I got that one in the head. But so good night, Steve, if you're heading out. Um, so these people must have lost their mind, right? In order for them to have compassion towards murderer, rapist people. I'm sorry. I was chained to a murderer when I was on the way to court. I talked about this story, and he said, boy, how fast can you run? And I was like, pretty fast. Why? When I were chained together in the paddy wagon kind of thing. And he says, because when I tell you to run, you better run. And he was like 6'4", hey, great, big, humongous black man. And here I am, you know, 5'11", 140 pounds with rocks in my pockets, uh, and he wants me to run. He said, "Son, if you don't run fast enough, I will rip your arm off." And I was like, "Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, boss man. I'll be running with you." Well, thank God that didn't happen, but I was still chained to a two-time murderer, second-degree murder both times, and was going to court for first-degree murder while I was chained to him. Okay, so it's like been there, done that. And what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is these other people have no idea what that feels like, or what it's like to be in the pen, or what it's like to be in the bullpen. Awaiting your extradition or whatever. As hey, dead end, what's up? And so, but these people can stand on the outside and say, well, he was mistreated. They were mistreated. No, not really. I got handcuffed to the biggest Samoan getting bust to court. The guy had a busted up face from fighting the cops. I was like, oh, come on. Yeah. What, you were going to tussle with him there, Scotty boy? Um, but anyway, some of these people who are whining about stuff have never had that kind of stuff happen to them. And they don't know. I mean, you got murderer, rapist, murderer, rapist, murderer. And you go, so you just want them to walk in and go, hi, everybody, take my picture before I go in. No, they go head down to the floor. They don't look around because that's how you train them. Guys, this is how it's going to be. You are under our control. You are under our command. You will put your head down. You will walk in a certain manner. You will be respectful and get in your cell, and it's that way. It's what they do. And it's in a way, I've not been in the service, but I have been in prison. So, and that's how they do things, right? So if you were in boot camp, they would kind of sort of do a similar thing, All right, boys, you're gonna get washed, you're gonna devour, and this is how it's gonna be. Now get to your bunk. All right. So, but the people on the outside who swear that they have been cheated of their American rights because they made it to America and are standing on American soil, then they can claim all the American rights that they want to. But I'm here in America. I'm in Michigan. I'm in America. It's a sanctuary state. I'm in America, so therefore I must be an American, right? No. Well, because I'm in America, I have all the rights as an American. Nope. Well, but wait a minute, the Constitution of the United States states that you got to be a citizen. You can become a citizen, but you have to take a test. You're supposed to learn English. You're supposed to do, and and you got to be a resident for so many years. You have to, pass the test. And then we will sign you in as a citizen of the United States. And proud to have you. But not because you are just standing in Michigan in a sanctuary city that you now shall have all the same rights as anybody else. No, I'm sorry. That right there pissed me off. I am a Native American. I was born in America, and I am a native of America. and I am a Native American because I do have some, Cherokee in me, but we are all Native Americans born here. But these other folks who have come here, I gotta say, I've known some folks I've talked about that I used to go back and forth with the coyotes. How Jose, it was so hot, crossing through the desert that the shoes, melted to the bottom of his feet, and other people and stuff. So I've known folks that crossed the desert and made it a couple of times, actually. And even one of them was a granny lady. I was like, she crossed over? Yep, yep, yep. Holy crap, you really must want to come back kind of thing. Don't you think you ought to like get a card if you're going back and forth and you're wandering through the desert, don't you think you should get a sponsor, get a green card? And they just liked the way they was doing it. They ain't doing it like that anymore. But it's been about 8 years since I've seen them. So, but anyway, um, for some of these folks, they put themselves through craziness. And I think at some point, some of the insanity, the craziness, they were creating it thinking that there was going to be a good outcome on the other end. Wait a minute. Well, what was the outcome? Nothing. What do you mean nothing? There was no outcome because you didn't follow through on it. You got to this point and finished your job kind of thing, but you didn't go to the next step. You just sat, turned left or something, but you didn't go to the next step. You didn't keep going. You didn't, whatever was supposed to come next, you didn't do it. So it's like, what was I supposed to do? Well, I don't know. It was up to you. Well, yeah, and I was so confused and everything was so insane. And like, yeah, you didn't use your insanity to plan for your future, you know? Well, what do you mean by that, Dave? Well, what I mean by that is you're supposed to take what you've learned and apply it to your future stuff, whatever it is. Use it for the future. Use the energy that you got. You use whatever it is you learned in whatever you just finished up to keep going to the next thing. Or maybe to just try something new, you know? Yeah, I got 1240 here. Oh, 12 here. Yeah, me too. That's what I got. 12 and 8. Yep. I was speaking about this with someone. Humans are neurotic. Yep. Perhaps more now than ever before. Here's the thing about that, dead end. And I'm agreeing, but I'm going to do a little bit of separation. I think that these high enders, left wing crazies, that their neurosis has gotten neurotic. that their neurosis, which they've already gotten, but their neurosis has gotten neurotic. They've gone to another level. And I don't see the right winger folks. In a way, there are some of these folks who have calmed down. I mean, even me, I've kind of calmed down in that, not that I was neurotic, but I was sort of getting there in that, did not want that crazy Biden to win or, the other guy. Anyway, so at least it turned out differently that way. We all just got to hang on to see if these things work. And seeing all these businesses come back to America, it's going to work, but people are just going to have to be patient. I wish I was a younger man. I'd go apply to some of these places. I could probably get a decent job up because of my years of experience as an engineer and working in manufacturing and so forth. It'd be right up my alley. But anyway, maybe I get a part-time job. So, but anyway. So the insanity part of this. Well, there's going to be some chaos. Yeah, there's going to be some, shucking and jiving along the way. But if you look at the bigger picture and pay attention to what's really going on, like I don't know if I said this time, I think I said it yesterday, but all these jobs, oh, there's only going to be 1,500 people. Yeah, but those 1,500 people are going to be buying cars. They're going to be going to the bank. They're going to be buying clothes and shoes and houses and rakes and lawnmowers and so them 1,500 people are going to be buying stuff and supporting their local neighborhoods, right? And there are other businesses that will help support the business that comes in. Secretary's going to need paper, and they're going to need ribbons for the printers, and they're going to need different kinds of things. So so it's a factory, and it's not just the 1,500 people. There's going to be work that gets spread out. I'm not American, Dave, so these examples mean nothing to me. But globally, neurosis is obvious. You don't have to be an American, because to me, it's sort of like a philosophy, you know, and it's the philosophy of common sense. It's the philosophy of humanitarianism without being stupid. It's like for myself, if somebody came to me and said, I need $10,000, but the only way that you can help me, Dave Hawkeye, I need $10,000. I'd go, okay, but Hawkeye, I need $10,000. So do I, but okay, but you're not going to help me. You said you would help me. You would do whatever you could to help me. Come on, Hawkeye, where's your, step up to the bar. I need $10,000. I'm sorry, but I don't have $10,000. I can't borrow it. It's not within my means. I'm sorry that that's what you need help with, because that's something I can't help you with. Oh, but you're wrong. You lied to me. You promised me y'all never speak to you again. You're not my friend. And, you know, and you go, but wait a minute. I, I never said that if you needed $10,000 to come see me. I'm a poor man. My house is paid for, and so is my truck. But you know, I'm buying that truck out there at a little bit, each week. So much a month. But we had we shook hands and bumped fists on our agreement. So and that's that, kind of thing. So I'm sorry, I don't feel as neurotic as you might feel, you know. My neurosis or neuroticism is not up there, way up there, like some people may be. So it's like not about right or left, it's about right and wrong. Yep. And in that, it's about being, good or evil too. Because if you're on the good side, then morally speaking, there are certain things you just ain't gonna, if there's a lady whose skirt flies up, you'd be the one to kind of turn your head to not be embarrassed, or to not be, to not embarrass her because you were looking. And then there are the guys that are like, "Ooh, do that again." Um, so is it right or wrong? But in the morality, I'm in the thing where if I seen something like that, I would turn my head, you know? I know other people who would turn their head. To me, those are true gentlemen. But if there's somebody that's like standing there and they go, "Woohoo, look at that," and makes the woman feel uncomfortable because her dress got flowed up here, whatever. So it's like, so now I'm not saying that every guy that watches a lady's when her skirts flies up in from the wind or whatever, that you're a bad guy. I do not suggest that. But what I'm saying is there are some of us people who have it in us. It's innate in me, in that I would just automatically turn my head. I just would. Now I might look back again, but but I'm gonna, oops, you know, whoop her butt showing. And then I might look around and go, but oh, she needs help. Her butt's showing. And then I might go do something. But to the point, my first reaction would be to turn my head. And somebody asked me, why would you turn your head if it was the woman whose skirt flew up, whose panties were being shown? And I thought about it for a second and I said, because I'm embarrassed for her. What do you mean? Well, I know she feels embarrassed because her panties are showing. And I feel embarrassed for her. And I don't want to make her embarrassment, hey, Alex, I don't want her embarrassment to feel any worse because I'm going to sit here and stare at her. No, she's already embarrassed. So I feel I'm going to turn my head because I feel embarrassed for her, you know. So, but it's like, okie dokie. But so in this, what's right, what's wrong, who's good, who's bad. But for me, in learning about uh, uh, being a shaman and learning about the shaman walk, these are little tweaky thingies that what makes a what makes a difference. The difference is, are you the guy that looks every time and hopes that the skirt gets blowed up again, or are you the person who is like embarrassed for what's happened to the person? You know, not that the other's wrong per se, right? But now you could be lecherous and go, "Come on, do it again." There is that. Hey, Mary wins. Good to see you. It's good to see all of y'all. God bless you. So, in this chaos of stuff, is it good or bad? Well, you know, I'm not a Mexican, so I don't know how Mexicans feel. Well, but I know some Mexicans, or I did. Used to sit around and eat with them and cook with them and party with them, and but I'd never been to Mexico. But I've had at least 20, three different families, at least 20 people that I knew who were Mexican, would help teach them English and other things. And they accepted me into their little community. And I was grateful and gracious. They were some wonderful people. But 9 out of 10 of them were illegal. And I knew it. But I couldn't turn them in. I just couldn't. I worked with them for too long. Now, would I shelter them from ICE? No, because I know better that I would just I just wouldn't do anything, because if I got involved in any way, it would just mean murder for me. Um, Socially speaking, or might have to go to jail myself, or and it's like, already been to jail. I'm too old for that kind of stuff. So the best thing I could do would be to just stand still in a situation like that. Well, did you know that they were illegal? Well, I kind of sort of suspected. But did you know? And the truth is, no, I didn't really know. I didn't see a green card or anything like that. I never asked them to show their ID, so it's like, I don't really know. So I kind of suspected it, but I'm not sure. Well, but you suspected, so why didn't you turn them in? Because just suspecting somebody doesn't mean I have the right to turn them in, you know. So that's how that goes, right? So I can see where there are some folks up in New York City and places and all who don't want to turn in folks that they've been working with. I get it. I really do. Are you harboring them? Well, I'm not going to turn them in. Okay. But at the same time, if ICE comes in to get them, I'm just going to back up and let what happens happens. Because it's not my right to step in. Um, and trying to, get in front of an ICE agent is not like the brightest thing in the world to do, right? So, if I were to help, it would be better for me to step back and then help bond them out or something, or whatever might part of it be, right? So I can be better help rather than just jump in and stand in the way. 20 something years ago, when I found they were paying 2,000 a head, I honestly really wanted to. 2,000 a head for what? Oh, driving a coyote. They wanted me to bring some back from Texas, to South Georgia, and I almost did it. But then their real driver came back, and it was going to be 200 a head. Oh, to turn in the illegals? I wasn't going to turn them in. I was going to drive them in further. Oh, goodness gracious. Now, if I lived in a city like I used to did back in the day, there's a couple there's a couple of buttholes that are part of a gang that are intimidating people, uh, slapping the girls on the butt, in the neighborhood. Folks can't, get around. We used to be able to walk around in the neighborhood, day or night, especially as kids. And now there are these above teenager, but less than 30, years old. And they're just hanging out. They rented a house in the neighborhood, right? And they're drinking beer and playing a lot of Mexican music and stuff. And they're talking, that we don't understand. They're not talking English, right? And so, would I turn those guys in? That Trende o Lagua kind of thing? If they were creating havoc in my neighborhood, like back in the old days, and they were, we had folks that created havoc back then, but they were Americans, they were just white trash. Um, Someone might call me that right now, but anyway, but so to that point though, um, there would have been a bunch of us little kids to hey my namastes, that there would have been a lot of us who would have called in an illegal living in the city, and they mess up the neighborhood. Hello, we would have, deputized us. I'm going to be like a Sergeant Schultz. I see nothing, 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 nothing. Um, it's Travis, David. Yeah, but you also don't make situations monetarily better for yourself when you can. I wouldn't have just started calling people in. I said they had to piss me off first. Well, that's sort of what I mean. There's somebody in the neighborhood that's been, you know, poking at the girls and stealing stuff. And, well, I'd have called them in, you know, but I don't live in the city anymore. Thank you, Jesus. And, um, and I don't know anybody like that. Uh, you know, had, um, I don't mean to be rude, but I had a Mexican man to change my tire the other day, and it looked like his mother, but it could have been his cousin or somebody. Maybe it was his wife, but she looked older than him. Not that that can't happen, but um, took care of my truck, fixed it right up, did a professional job, put my tire back on and everything. And I'm like, I told my friend yesterday, I said, you know what was different? And he said, what's that, Dave? And I said, the guy, there was a sort of richer car over there, nice car, right? And there's my, banged up truck, at least from his point of view. If he'd seen it from the back, it ain't banged up. But anyway, so he was, he took the tire off and uh, clamped the rim down to the thing and went around it with an air grinder with a brush in it and made sure that all the rust and anything was cleaned off of the rim all the way around. Then he flipped it over and he did it again. And I was like, holy cow, I wanted to do that. In fact, me and my buddy Tommy were talking about it before I drove into town. I said, man, I really should do that to get that aluminum rust off of to make sure that the rubber seats well. And so I was like, wow, I want him to do that to mine, right? So it's like a few minutes later, I turned back around and he's working on my rims. He's got the tire off, right? And guess what? He's using the side grinder with the wire brush. And he's going around my rim just cleaning the dickens out of it, right? And I was going, so here's the rich man over here that he did his. And here's the poor man, me over here, right? And he's doing my rims just like the rich guy over here, right? So I was like, so what's different about this picture? And so thank you very much, blah, 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 when I get my first of the month, I'll come back and you can do the other tires. So, but here I am. And so my friend asked me yesterday, he said, so what's different about this? And I said, well, he's a Mexican man. And he goes, so? And I said, so the Mexican men that I met with through the restaurant and all over the years, that clan of folks, the Mexican men were, and the women too, though, but the Mexican men were very proud. They didn't want to do a half assed job, no matter what it was. And I said, what's different with this guy is that all the other tire shops were closed at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Like 6 of them, all of them closed at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday afternoon, by the way. So, and here is this Mexican man and lady, and she was, popping tires on and off too. So here's this couple. I don't necessarily mean, uh, romantically, but, a working couple. And so he treats the rims on my vehicle like the rich guy. What's the difference? And I said, him and his partner, he has pride in his work. That's what's different. What? He takes pride in his work. He didn't care if that I had a banged up truck versus a really nice car. He did the same job because he's proud of his work. How many people are really proud of their work these days? How many people have a decent work ethic? I mean, I'm trying to be honest here. There are a lot of these younger folks that just, yeah, it was that. Wait a minute, you're done. I had some things that I had some younger folks working on, and they were like, "Well, yeah, that's good enough, ain't it?" And I was like, "No, you made a mess. Well, I picked up this stuff, yeah, but you didn't clean the area. You didn't use the rake. You didn't really finish up. Well, I picked up the pile like you asked. Yeah, but you should have raked all the other stuff and took it to, you know, I'm thinking of, somebody rakes piles in your yard and then you hire somebody to go pick the piles up, right? And they just pick up the big bunch and leave all the sticks and everything behind. They don't clean up, they don't finish that little bit of job, right? So it's like, but I got most of it. But you're supposed, never mind. You don't get it, right? So there are folks like that. But so here is this Mexican gentleman, I'm guessing in his 30s, who has pride in his work, regardless of me being poor or him being rich. It didn't matter. He had pride in his work and did a good job. So and you know what he got, because he stayed open till 5:30, and it was quarter to 6 by he finished me. But I was there in plenty of time now. But the fact that he stayed open when nobody else in town was open, nobody else in town was open. So I'm going to go back to that guy. And I watched him and his professionalism. And you go, you're just changing a tire. No, you don't understand. I used to change tires. I used to work in a service station. I used to do this kind of stuff. And he takes pride in his work. Because when I worked there, you made sure that the rim was clean. He even went around the inside of the tire with the grinder thingy and made sure that it was all nice and buffed out. And I'm like, what? He went that little bit even further. So when somebody takes that much care in the work that they do, regardless of, to me, that's cool. So to that Mexican man, I'd be hard pressed for me to turn him in if he was illegal, because of his work ethic. Would you turn that guy in? I don't know. He really changes a mean tire. you know, I don't know. Oh, but that bitch over there on the corner, yeah, arrest them. Get them guys over there. But leave the tire changing guy alone. You know what I mean? Hey, buddy, go hide behind the dumpster. You're short. They won't see you. Uh, don't stand on your tiptoes; they'll see your head. It is true he was short, and that's probably rude. But no, he really was short. I'm not making fun of him, right? So, but 111. Oh yeah, 1111. 111 is right down the street here. It goes into Florida. So but but to the point though, I'm hoping he's got a green card. I mean, really, and I will go back to him as long as he's still working there to get my tires fixed because of their worth ethic. Well, what about the Gaze tire down there? They got four bays and all these fancy. This guy's got one bay and it's real narrow. And I'm going to the Mexican. What? Yeah, I'm gonna go to the Mexican over the white dude. Really? Yeah, I'm prejudiced. Well, bitch, you're gonna go give business to the Mexican. Yep. You're not going to give it to Gaze Tire Service, who's been in business for the last 40 years. You're not going to give him your business? No. And you're going to turn down and you're going to give it to the Mexican. Yep. How come? Well, Gaze Tires used to stay open until 5:30, and now they close at 4. There are sometimes I can't get there at 4 o'clock because my tire went flat at 4:30. And this guy is open until 5:30. And he does excellent work. So, but you're going to give the business to the Mexican? Yep. Why? I just said. So, Gaze Tire in 10 years ago used to take care of me. They used to stay open till 6 o'clock on Fridays. And now the place is locked up tighter than a drum. I thought they were out of business. No, they close at 4. That's just dumb. But so you don't have the business, you don't stay open. So I went to another racist white man owned tire store. You used to stay open till 6 every night. And was even open till like 2 o'clock on Saturdays. Um, Closed at 4 o'clock. I'm giving the Mexican the business. I am prejudiced, but I'm prejudiced towards him, and I'm prejudiced for the good work that he did, right? And for his workmanship and for his work ethic. Because these people that I used to trust apparently don't have a work ethic anymore. I mean, you don't stay open until 5 o'clock on Friday? I mean, come on. You used to do it until 6, but okay. So things have changed. Does that mean it's good or bad? No, it's changed. To me, it. I'm giving it to the Mexican. You know, whether he stays up. I mean, I don't have to go there late. To prove my point, but you know, um, the changes are coming for those of us who go. It used to be that you had to go to Gay's Tire Service, right? You had to go to Gay's Tire Service. He does all the do, blah, 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 and they're open till 6 o'clock on Friday. And now they don't even advertise. They don't even hear it on the radio anymore. And so now they're closed at 4. And now so the change has come, and for whatever reason, they kind of started it. Could be because business was bad, but if you're not going to stay open, you're also going to lose business. You're going to gain business if you stay open an hour later. You can send half of your guys home and leave a couple of guys to fix a flat tire or something. But come on, you know, the lights and everything are still on in the place. I mean, the air compressor's still running. It's not like you can't do it. You just choose not to, right? So I see that the future coming up. All right. And the Kali Yuga is supposed to be ended here a day or two ago. Um, but that I see for the future, along with some other people too, that if you take the opportunity, oh, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. No, but take the opportunity. Well, what's going on? Well, I don't know. There's a guy that says they got some kind of job going on over there, but I don't know nothing about it. Well, maybe you should, look into taking some classes. Or maybe you should see about, OJT. What's that? On the job training. That maybe you could, like I have volunteered and worked for people back in the daytime. I would go into, I've had a thing going with one of the mechanics in Moultrie, and I wanted to learn about Volkswagen engines and stuff. So I used to go into his shop and volunteered my time. What do you need done? Name was Daryl Kent. So what do you need, Daryl? You know, well, I need these. I need these lifters or the push rods, and these done. And you need to take these heads and do whatever. Oh, okay. You know. So in doing so, I would ask him questions about the vehicle we were working on, and I'd also slip in a question about my Volkswagen, right? So over the years, we weren't close friends, but we were good acquaintances. And if I needed a something, a question answered, uh, at times I could stop by and go, "Hey, Daryl, blah 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 blah. Oh, check the something something something." And if he had a Volkswagen up and in the air, he'd go, "Come here, you see that right there? Da, 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 take that. Oh, okay." And at the time he was the only place to that I could buy Volkswagen parts from too, without going out of town by 60 or 70 miles, right? If they had the parts. So I could trust him to order them, and he trusted me to pay for them. So it worked out good. But anyway, but I volunteered. And in the old days, people became an apprentice to someone. You want to learn how to blacksmith? Well, you can go to to Tifton, to the Agorama there, where they do old timey stuff. And on certain days, they have people that volunteer their time to blacksmith there, and they will teach you how to blacksmith if you come and ask and hang around with them. So you too can learn how to blacksmith, but you got to go volunteer. You have to become an apprentice. Well, you can read about and all that stuff, but if you ain't worked with metal and see how hot it's supposed to be, and if you ain't worked a bellows before, and you haven't, you ain't pounded on some metal on an anvil, you need to try that because that's what you got to do to become a blacksmith. So, but with all those things said, you know, but people don't want to volunteer for anything anymore. Well, some of them do. Is it 20? Okay, I'm ready. Cheers, everybody. Happy trails. Thank you, Scotty Boy. So I'm listening to a lot of people recently. I mean, I've been cramming it, right? What are people's opinions, right? And, I guess I'm being racist, but I've been listening to a lot of black folks' podcasts, male and female, you know, and some of them righteous females, boy. And I had to give this one lady, she was going on and on and on. And in the end, I had to do a thumbs down. I said, honey, you can't be preaching that stuff now. And she was like, oh, Donald Trump and oh, the Republicans. And oh, and she did this thing and she was sort of recapping some stuff. And then she said, they're all evil communist people. And this is how Hitler started out. And I was like, oh, shit. Thumbs down, you know. And, they're there are folks out there. And I listened to her. I gave her the benefit of the doubt. But when she started calling Elon Hitler and all this stuff, I was like, no, no. And an educated black woman, and nice looking, just in her 40s, and just educated, spoke well, and then went into the whole Hitler thing. And I was like, please, Jesus, you said all these things, and at the end of what you just said, the only thing you could think of was Hitler and Nazi. Oh man. So is morality out the window? I'm gonna do a video, and it's been playing around in my head. I'm gonna I'm gonna label it for for entertainment, for comedy. But it's gonna be, and this is what I'm gonna call the video. Can we say fat yet? Am I froze again? It's been 2 hours and 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And it's time for her to finish this 20. But so I'm gonna do a video. Can I say fat again? Can I say fat yet? Or something along that line? Simple title. Because people don't say fat anymore. You're obese, you're overweight, you're a little plump, you're anything but freaking fat. I'm fat. I got a gut on me. I'm 20 pounds overweight. I'm fat. Can I say fat? Well, I saw a person in Walmart the other day, and that woman was fat. Oh, you can't say that about her. Well, why not? She was fat. No, she was just big bone. Bones had nothing to do with it. Her ass was as big as the back end of a Chevy, you know, a fatty. Yeah, there you go. But in this correctness, uh, you know, can we say fat yet? You know, with Trump signing off this and that and the other thing, which I think is great. A lot of people are freaking out, and I've just been laughing my ass off. I mean, I've been literally laughing my ass off. I'm fat, but began the journey of non-fat this week. And seeing, I'm not trying to bully anybody. I'm really not, because I'm fat. Now I'm not. I don't have a big ass. Wish I did. It would cushion the bones. But I mean, in our society, when I was growing up, it was uh, it was okay to say fat. But now, if it was somebody that you didn't know, you didn't call them fat. Now, if somebody was fat, like my brother was, and I was skinny, and it was obvious, but it was okay for the fat part. But if you said fatty, fatty 2x4, then that's when the swinging started. So as long as it was just left at fat and not anything other added to it, it was okay. Not all the time, but where appropriate, and family, friends, in the neighborhood, you could say fat. Now you can't. You can't say fat. you know, and I don't know when they cut that off. Literally, it's sort of like what you call it, swang. Um, but when did we stop using fat? You know. But anyway, um, and I'm just curious as to whether or not we're allowed to use it again. So hips that sink battleships. Yep. So I see the future, that not only this year, but I see it this year. Cliff High says, we're in for some good stuff this summer, and aliens are stuck in there this summer somehow. And there's been a lot of stuff going on with the alien thing, by the way, too. But what I see for the future, and there was a reason why I said, I listened to uh, um, black um, authored podcasts, and I'm being prejudiced, because I want to listen to their point of view. And I used to hang around with a lot of black folk back in the day, and one of my best buddy was down there at Pebble Hill Plantation. Lovejoy was his name, and I loved him, man. We just got along good together, anyway. So, but listen to Lovejoy and his family and cousins and aunts and uncles and grandmas sitting around back smoking one and waiting on the barbecue. You got a whole different perspective of the things that were going on around town. Because this person over there was a cleaning lady for this ritzy tutti frutti up there in town. Oh, and she heard and listened to and saw this and did that. Oh, where you wouldn't have heard anything about it in the white community. So then they're two dogs, and yeah, and I worked for Dr. Such and Such, and you should have seen his wife drunk as a skunk. Oh, and so it's not really gossip, but it is. But it's like, they work for the rich white people, and so it's like they're discussing work, like iron workers. Man, I was working over there, I had a big thing, and so their employers are, are sort of part of the game. But anyway, so but I always appreciated their point of view, right? Because it's obviously a different point of view. And I could see some of my white friends going, well, why do they think things differently, Dave? You don't know? Well, no, I mean, they're just people. They should think like us. Well, they don't. you know, Sorry, you should go hang out with some of them. Well, should I take fried chicken or some watermelon? Oh, shut up. But anyway, um, so for the future, what I see is that if you're willing to work, the opportunity is going to be there. The different businesses they're bringing back in. For those young people out there, listen to me if you hear this. Go to trade school. Go to trade school. Learn a trade. If you go back to trade school and learn to be a machinist or a mechanic, and anything that's coming, these factories that are coming, oh, but robots are going to be, yeah, but you get to work on the robots. You get to work on the machinery that builds the stuff. You are the guy that when the back door breaks down to bring stuff in and out, you're the guy that's going to help fix it. Learn uh, learn to be an electrician. Learn about electronics. Learn about these things because it's coming. Yeah, well, I learned about computers and all that. There are people who learn computer a dime a dozen. But people who have never worked with numerical control, like an Allen Bradley machine, because the types of language that it uses is its own. It's machine language. So go to school and learn machine language. And then, regardless of what company moves into your neighborhood, if they've got machines running, you can say, well, I know Alan Bradley. I know how to, I know the machine language. You do? Well, come on over here. We're having issues. Because there are a lot of places around here when business was booming that anybody who knew how to work with it's Alan Bradley's common, at least it was. Um, that if you knew how to work on an Alan Bradley and knew machine language, you was getting $30 an hour, easy. Especially if you could fix the problem quickly, if you know how to get in there and troubleshoot. So, but to these young folks, you know, everything is a computer. No, it ain't. You know, you need a computer to diagnose a car, but when you got to replace the part, it becomes the mechanic who changes the part, not a robot. You know, not somebody else. It's the mechanic that changes the parts out. It's the mechanic who makes sure that the parts tighten down. A good mechanic. It's the mechanic that you understand. So it's the same thing in a factory. Lots of stuff can break down, and that the robot can't fix because we had a big robot, $1 million robot come in that was going to do this thing. Actually, they bought two of them, and they couldn't get them robots to work for nothing. So for 9 months, they tried and tried and tried and tried. Working for Ford now. Hey, Miss Bernicia, I was wondering if you was out there tonight. So learn a trade, Bernicia. Go back to go back to trade school. Um, that's what I'm just yapping about. But anyway, so all these, I mean, high tech folks from Ford, from this big uh, business down in Brooksville, Florida, that they build huge pieces of machinery and stuff. And they came up, and the people from Michigan came down, and the folks from Ford came from Canada, and they worked on it and worked on it and worked on it, and they never got it to run. And it's like, so they literally spent millions on this robot, this machine, and but when it wouldn't work, to the point, it came down to the low class engineers and the maintenance people. It was the maintenance people who could look at it and tell that if something was, not needed adjusted on the machine just by looking at it. Well, that thing's not square. How do you know? Because it's not, I can just see it. And you'd get out a tool or whatever. You go, oh man, it really is out of square. So that's why stuff won't line up. Okay, so tighten it down next time. So we were there, but then the ritzy pitsy engineer folk, they thought they knew what they were doing. But the problem was that the design of this machine, it was trying to do too many things on one machine. They should have had it was trying to do like 20 different things on this. This thing was like 15 feet in diameter. A piece of aluminum was this thick. It was humongous. And so, and talk about a fool's errand. But um, 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 they couldn't see the writing on the wall. So 3 months in, we were standing around the machine, and a plant manager came out, and I was there with a couple of the maintenance men, good people now, we'd worked with before, had worked on some big machines, little machines, worked together well. We knew what we were looking at. It we could tell. So here's this big machine, and the plant manager comes out and he goes, "Well, guys, what do you think?" And we looked at one another. I leaned over and looked down the line, and there was Wakely down there, and there's Kenneth over here, and there was Big Kenneth right there, and there was, and well, what do you think, Dave? And I was like, I had to be first in line, and I said, well, um, my honest opinion is I don't think they're ever going to get this thing to run. And he went, what? And everybody down the line was like, yep, yeah, that's what we think too. And plant manager Gary, he was a really nice guy. And he put his hands on his hips and he said, unfortunately, I was thinking the same thing. And he goes, I'm glad we all agree. You don't know. And we looked at each other like, what? But so then this was like on a Friday, right? So on Monday, there are all these people coming in from out of town. And that was when they brought in everybody. So, this is 3 months in. We've given it a good shot. We've been doing the things. We've been doing these minor modifications. But if we run it slow, we found that, was they tried to speed it up too fast. You had to run it slow so everything could line up and do what they wanted it to do. Simple. Well, as soon as they turned the speed up, everything went to hell. They didn't listen to us, who had spent 3 months working on it, right? So these people come from out of town who designed it. The folks from Michigan, all these engineers from Ford came in and they worked for 2 more months and then said, that's it. And they picked it up with a forklift and dumped it in a dumpster. $1 million worth of tooling and aluminum that was a foot thick, dumped it in a dumpster. Such is life in the big world of manufacturing. So, but to the point though, it boiled down to who could fix it, who could work on it, who can use hand tools, who can do programming, machine programming. And those were the folks who were making the big bucks. So they're going to bring all that back. They're going to bring manufacturing back. You might know how to use a computer, but can you use a computer to program a robot to do something, to do a thing? Do you know how to do that? Well, I can use a computer. That's not what I said. Well, everybody said to learn computers. That's nice. But then now you need to take the next level up from I know how to use computers to I know how to use computers to program a robot in a factory. What? Yes, I know how to program a robot in a factory. Wow, that's a good trait because we've got factories coming back in, and they've got some different types of robots. Now there are machines who do robotic type things, but they ain't robots. They're called CNC machinery. Um, and so that you need to know how to program them. And CNC machinery they build all kinds of things. You put in a piece of aluminum and close the little doors and hit start, and it goes and makes a part. And when it's done, it goes ding, and you take the part out. And so they've been having these things for 30 years, easy, actually more, but to the point. So do you know how to run one of those? Can I teach someone that? Yeah, if I had the machine and everything, there's a lot I could teach someone about machining. Absolutely. Where to look in books and what to study, and and how to learn about things. And of course, it'd be up to the person, with me doing like a long distance teaching about mechanics or machining, or being a machinist, or being an engineer. Um, I give you the information, but as in with anything, you need to go take that information and go apply it. You know, it is easier to just eat it. Oh, makes fruit smoothies. That sounds good. For some reason, I quit cooking. I just do really light stuff anymore. Uh, my whole, ever since my back surgery, my whole everything has changed. Cooking, taking care of this or that or whatever, juicing, not juice, everything has changed. And some of it I went back. you know, it's not that it's a bad change, but I'd really like to go back to some. Oh, it just said reconnecting. Am I still here? Oh, it just reset. It's only 27 minutes? Huh. I wonder if it starts a new video, or if it just says, uh, yeah, Dave's not here, man. Well, I won't be if I keep this up. But so anyway, and as I have listened to these male and female Black podcasters, and regardless of what seems to be their income level, from number one, how they talk. All right. Now, it's God bless them, but some of these folks, I know they went to school. Um, but they do not know how to pronounce certain words. I mean, just don't know. Or somebody taught them how to pronounce a word that, like one of them that I'll use. It's an easy one. Orion. What? Sounds like a cookie. Orion. I was looking at Orion last night. What? Yeah, Orion. What are you talking about? Well, it's up in the night sky along with Andromeda. What? You know, Andromeda, that star thingy up there. Do you mean Andromeda? Yeah, well, Andromeda. And are you trying to tell me Orion is Orion? Yeah, 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 yeah. That, Orion. It's pronounced Orion. Since the days of the Greeks, they have pronounced it Orion. Um, don't care how you spell it. It's how you pronounce it. Well, but Andromeda, it's Andromeda. Oh my God. And some of these people, and now I got to say, it's not, I'm not trying to suggest that it's only Black people. Not at all. There are some of these podcasters, and some of them are very well known. have never, I don't think they know how to use a dictionary. That's for one. Because in the dictionary, if you look right next to the word in the dictionary, it'll show with little dips and stuff and curly cues on over the words and the letters and stuff as to how it is pronounced. But if you've never had an English class to teach you that, then you just made up the word to whatever you thought it sounded like. Oh, wow, that's interesting. So there are a lot of words that I'll be listening to somebody and an intelligent someone, you think, and then they hit this word. Oh, Jesse Waters. I love him to death. You know, on Fox, I can't remember the word, but he mispronounces it every freaking time. And I'm like, Jesse, for God's sake, somebody tell him how to pronounce that word, you know? And I think that there are some of the producers are standing back going, every time he does it, they get a big laugh. Oh, but anyway, but as I talked about this 9 years ago when I first started doing these shows. I even did a couple of early on videos about, how to speak in the positive and how to pronounce words and how to, stuff like that. And here, 9 years later, oh my God, there are people who have great big followings of them and their podcasts. And they just eat up words. They just can't say them correctly. And I'm like, please take an English course. God, I'm sure that they've got online English classes. Take a basic English course on how to use those little, you know, um, long and short signs over the vowels and things. Oh my God, please learn how to do that. Anyway, so in the future, I this year, and we've had some warnings, but with all the businesses coming back to America, and trust me, there's going to be some more. Okay, you gotta learn something to do with manufacturing. Computers ain't going to get it. Well, I know how to run. Yeah, okay, that's nice. And you might have to use one in the job, but that's not what you need to know to do the job. You need to there are classes in some of these um, um, trade schools that will teach you basic robotics, how to program. They've got little models. They've got a little model on a table with an arm that's exact. You got to tell it what to do. And it's like, it's got to go over here and pick up this thing, pick it up, move it around over here, and set it down in a cart. Then it's got to go back up, it's got to swing back around and go get another one. That's all it's got to do. But you have to train it how to do it, how fast it goes. You got to program all of the parameters. So you don't have to have a giant machine to learn how to do it, right? But you need to learn how to do it. So if you can tell somebody that moves into your neighborhood with a manufacturing plant and you go, well, I have worked in robotics. I know how to program, machines in the factory. And they go, really? Ooh, do you know machine language? And if you go just that little bit step further, you go, yes, sir, or madam. And they go, come on, we got a job for you. Um, and then they always need a mechanic. And a good engineer is a good mechanic. I'm sorry, wait. A good engineer is a good machinist these days, because a machinist knows how to drill a hole and an engineer doesn't. you know because they've seen them, But anyway, so I see the future as being very promising for people, but they're going to have to take the initiative. Everybody's being warned. Manufacturing's coming back. Where do you live? Well, I live in the middle of Mississippi. Well, did you know they're wanting to build a car manufacturer over there? They want to start building boats again in Mobile. They want to start, they want to have build, or maybe they already have the building, um, you know, to a steel manufacturing because it's going to be set up by Hyundai, I think, or one of them, and so that they're going to make steel for their cars and everybody else. So here's this, overseas company that wants to not import steel but make it here. Ooh, yes. So you need to learn how to do stuff. You know, uh, you're going to import all the Chinese or Koreans over here to come take the job? No, dumbass. Get up off your butt and maybe learn something about, um, what does it take to work at an iron factory? What do they do? You ever seen them great big buckets that are 2,000 degrees and they pour that steel out? That's what they do. Can you work around that? Could you understand what to do? That's not the only job, but to the point though, they're going to need those kind of people to work those kinds of jobs. And the folks that used to do those kind of jobs, like me, we are all retired. Us baby boomers were the ones that did that before. These folks these days don't have the same work ethic. And you just can't stand around and, well, I don't know, it's too hot in here. And if you've worked in a foundry, which I have, it's hot in here, damn sure is. But you work for 10 or 15 minutes and get that metal poured, and then you can take that thing off and dump some water on your head, and but you don't have to stand in front of that furnace all the time. But you do have to go and stand in front of the furnace to get the parts out, to pour the metal or whatever it is, right? So, but most people, oh, I can't do that. Well, have you ever tried? Well, no, I just what, no, but for me, I'm like, I'm different. I'd like, I've always wanted to see how they poured metal out of one of them big buckets. I would volunteer to go work to just go see how it works, just for the experience of it. What, Dave? You're crazy. Yes. But instead of seeing it and watching it, I would really like to participate at least once. After that, I might go, okay, that's enough. I've had it. But so what is life all about? Life is all about the experience. Why are you and I here? It's to experience life. It is. It's for us to have conversations. It's for you and other people to have conversations and interact. It's for us to see the world and go, ooh, that's for shit. Or, ooh, that's really cool, or, ooh, that's kind of shitty, but kind of cool too. We get to experience life. And if we're smart enough and we learn from the wisdom of our previous mistakes, that we can still move forward. We don't have to run unless we want to, but we can move forward. And you say, well, Hawkeye, what do you mean moving forward? Aren't you retired? Yeah. Well, moving. Hey, Richard, how you doing? For me, I am moving forward in that, I got to work on my John Deere tractor to make sure it mows. I have to, that's moving forward. I have to move forward to finish up my little project on the canoe on the boat. I finished the project with the tires on the truck. I got another project to make sure that the lights work on the boat trailer. I mean, so I'm moving forward to check these things. I'm moving forward to get my fishing tackle out again. I'm moving forward to get ready to go to the river as soon as it drops a little bit to go fish. So I'm moving forward with something rather than, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. Well, I don't, nah, which I have done previously, recently, right? So now it's like, no, got to move forward, got to keep inching forward, And I've talked about this over the years too, you know, don't sit still. And then sometimes something comes up for me, like that rotor rooter thing that really took it out of me, buddy. Hoo-hoo-hoo. But, I'm feeling more frisky now these days. And it's because I want to. I'm still in pain. I'm still hurting, but I'm getting up and being more frisky simply because I will it. Seriously. I'd be out there in the yard going, son of a bitch. But I keep walking, you know. And then I get to somewhere and I sit down and I go, son of a bitch. And then I waddle back to the house, you know, but I'm still doing it, you know. So I refuse to be an invalid, and I've met some other older people. They're older than me, in 88, 79, and just, recently just talking with folks in the waiting rooms and stuff. All but one lady's been older than me, and I'm like, God, and here I am complaining because I'm 72, I got to quit that mess. But I do hurt. It is hard to walk still. Um, yes, these things are true, but it doesn't mean I have to allow these things to control who I am. You know, well, you've had surgery on your back. Yep. Still in pain. Yep. So what do you do about it? I keep going. No, I mean seriously. What do you do? I keep going. Well, does it hurt? Yeah. Well, now we don't want you to push it. This is what the guy said today. We don't want you to push it to where it's hurting. I looked at him and I said, too late. And he goes, why? And I said, it hurt walking across the parking lot to get here. It hurt to walk from the front end of the building to the back end of the building. It hurt for me to come over here and sit on this bicycle thing and pedal and row for 10 minutes. And you don't want me to hurt, like, too late, you lose. If that were the case, you'd have met me at the door and said, go home, And so he was laughing, but he was like, But, that's the state I'm in. So, but, let's be frank about it, because you're insane. That's right. Or were you talking about me? Yeah, but anyway, so the insanity should not stop us, especially when somebody else's insanity is kind of. I was led to you 2 years ago by on the channel. I have mentioned a star guitar to you. April 1st is New Year's Day. I know you've mentioned it, and for the last 20 years, actually more. Um, Yeah, because it was like 2002 or somewhere right after 2000. I heard about it, and so it's been at least 20, probably 25 years. And I welcome you and thank you. And I love your presence, but um, I'll believe it when I see it. They have lied to me and to us for so many years. And well, if you say it's going to come on April 2nd, okay. Am I going to wait for it on April 2nd? No. If it comes, I'll go, yay, finally, but I ain't waiting, you know. I will not be one of those people sitting by the phone. And William, I love you, I do. And for a lot of people's sakes, I hope it happens. But I've been disappointed too many times, you know. So, okay, if creator's going to bring it in, if it's going to be allowed and all that kind of good stuff, okay, I'm good. I'm good, But deception has happened too many times. And for me, in swimming around in this cosmic goo, the last two times that I got snookered into believing that, and here it comes, and my guardian angel spirit said, Dave. And I was like, but wait a minute, and because I was telling other people, I was on board with this and it's fixing to happen. And my friend Marcia, who's passed away, she was waiting on. We were doing this, we were listening, and we were paying attention. And then it was like, um, what happened? Uh, Still waiting, Marcia's been dead now 5 years. And that was the last time before she died, which probably 6 years ago. That was my last. Oh yeah, sorry, it's coming, blah 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 blah, and then it disappeared, sort of like she did when she died. So, but if it happens, it'd be nice, But right, Big Dad, I am not holding my breath. I had two YouTube channels terminated. I've been told I am an Arcturian starseed. Okay, I believe you. Um, oh, they've been deleting some of my videos behind my back. I went in and was looking for a video, and it's like the icon was there that said that there was a video there, but there was no video there. So I'm going and I'm looking, and I was like, wait a minute, there's a little something. Well, the video's not there. Well, I click on it. Let me see. Nope, there's no video. Well, wait a minute. Go down a little ways, check it out. There's a little thing. What? There's no video. So you ain't the only one, you know. And I was told that, I'm a Palladian something. So welcome to you. And I mean that with, he scares the shit out of me when he does that. God almighty, Duggar. I'm almost pooped my pants. Hang on, let me let him out. Go outside and do that. Go chase him outside. Go on. I don't know what you barking at, but go get him. Go get him. So, William, I hope you don't think I'm beating up on you. Because I really hope that that thing happens, but 13 months is in a year. October means. And Big Dad, I'm trying. I'm right behind you, but I'm the one that keeps yakking. So there are folks that say that RFK Jr. is a wacko. But now that he's in as the HHRH, Health Human Resources thingy, um, the state of Florida is looking into making chemtrails illegal over the skies of the great state of Florida, which would mean that some of them wouldn't float up here to me. You know what I mean? So, but that also the great state of West Virginia is outlawing certain dyes and things now. And it's like, really? And in they're uh, wanting to ban fluor- fluoride being added to municipal water systems. Because back in the days of the Nazis, they used fluoride to control the behavior of the folks in the concentration camps. It kept them lethargic and it kept them from rioting and it kept them, and it's like, what? Yeah, fluoride. So they've been putting fluoride in, water for a long, 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 long time. They put it in mouthwash. They put it in toothpaste. We have been injecting the fluorides for a long time, And so they've proven, but they just don't talk about it. There's the frog. But they just don't talk about how, fluoride can mess with a bunch of stuff, you know, and there are a lot of things that they call a fluoride that ain't really a fluoride. It's sort of like the different oils that they talk about are canola oils. See, I remembered it this time. There are oils that they claim are canola oils, but it ain't from canola. It's from cottonseed. It's from this rapeseed. It's from this seed over here, but it ain't from the canola. So they've been getting away with this shit for a long time. You've heard me talk about the oils and the things. And so, um, but, here's RFK Jr., who's the wacko, who's the crazy, right? Who now has in charge of what children eat in school, not the Department of Education telling what children should eat. It's the Department of Health that makes the decision of what children should eat. Fluoride calcifies human pineal. Oh, yeah, it's bad for you. Well, see, I don't have fluoride in my well. It's just, water and some clay. All their shit sounds good, but we will see, feels like put people back to sleep to me so they remain in power. But see, that's just it. The other power shift that was the Biden stuff, and it really wasn't even Biden. It was his wife and some other people that were running stuff from behind the scenes. But, you know, uh, and there are a lot of different chemicals that they classify as fluoride too, by the way. So, but anyway, um, so here's this guy that, 6 months ago, well, all right, a year ago, was this crazy lunatic trying to run for president, right? 56, really? It's probably warmer than that here. Um, but here's this, Kennedy, who thinks he knows everything, running for president. He's a whack job, talking about health and chemicals and stuff. And now he's not the president, but he's in charge of health and human resources thingy for the United States. And that they're already getting rid of red dye number two. They're getting rid of some other dyes that really are, poisonous. But here's the thing: there are alternatives to those dyes that are natural. That's the kicker. It's not that we don't want them to use some kind of dye to make something prettier or whatever. But if you've got one that's made of all natural ingredients, well, use that one. Yeah, but the red isn't quite as red. I've heard this before now. And well, what do you mean? Well, Pops, when he worked as a meat cutter, when he put the meats out in the in the case, the fluorescent lights would make the meat look brown. Okay, so they would add red dye to the meat that was showing, like the steaks and stuff. They kind of patted on there to because the light made the meat look brown, and people didn't want to buy it. So he was like, I had to go pad the beef today. And it was like, what are you talking about? He had to go add a little red dye, to make the beef look like beef. Because everybody, back in the day where, they showed pictures of the markets of, the nice red beef, and it's like, yeah, okie dokie. But it doesn't stay that way. But if you haven't worked around, um, a butchering or meat cutter thingy or anything like that, you realize that red color kind of fades after you cut it, kind of thing. But anyway, um, but what the public doesn't know. So, but here's this crazy man talking about all these chemicals and stuff, and now the state of Florida wants to ban anybody flying overhead. Uh, Dumping chemtrails out over the state of Florida. Now, part of what I'm like, I'm 30 miles north of the Florida line. So I'm all for this too. Because if they're flying along the Florida line through the panhandle over to Jacksonville, and, them fumes have a tendency to roll north, or, that which would mean if they came over my house, they could roll south. So that means that Florida could argue with the folks in Georgia if chemtrails were, you know what I mean? So there's this thingy, okay, which way does the wind blow? So I hope that, they keep it up, because if other people start looking at it, then maybe the state of Georgia will go, you know what? I don't like chemtrails either. And hey, what about Alabama over there? Do you like chemtrails? No. You know, it messes up our beaches down here. Oh yeah, whatever they spray comes down on the ground, and my garden doesn't put out like it used to. And every summer they spray this damn stuff in the sky. I don't know what it is, but my garden don't grow like it used to. You know, which that's me too. So, but anyway, but now this crazy Kennedy guy is not against vaccines, they find out. He's against unproven or untested vaccines. He's not against vaccines. He's against vaccines that are rushed to production. And see, all these years, nobody's been listening to him because this is what he's been saying all along. But about a month ago now, they interviewed him and somebody else, and it was a thing. And they asked him point blank, and they asked him again, and they came back around and asked him a third time. And on the third time, they were like, "You mean you're not against vaccines?" And he said, "No, that's what I've been trying to tell you. I'm against vaccines that haven't been tested. But you all cut me off before I can finish. I want the vaccines tested and then approved, you know?" So they were like, "Oh, and for the last couple of weeks, you ain't heard nothing about Kennedy and vaccinations anymore, or vaccines, right?" Because they finally got it. They finally listened to what he'd been saying for the last umpteen years, you know? So you say, well, what's that got to do with things? Well, because that was a chaos. That was an insanity clause. Going back to this, 2.5 hours ago. Here was this insanity clause, that after all this time, he's crazy, he's insane, his ideas are off the charts. And now they go, "Oh, you're not against vaccines? Really? All you want is to make sure they've been tested? That's your beef? Well, I'm on your side then, right?" Oh. And everybody shuts up. Everybody calms down. And now there is that's an example of an insanity, so that it has now become sane. But wait a minute, what's changed? They started listening. What happened? Somebody started listening. And I think it was in a cabinet meeting when he said it, and they were asking him again, and he was like, "I want it to be tested. Unless it's a vaccine for some crazy bioweapon, they accidentally yeah." And here's the thing. I've talked about this, and I should probably be careful, but back in the day, we had to drink monkey juice. That's what we called it. And it was for the oleope. All right, it's Pig Latin, oleope, and none of us wanted oleope. So, but what Kennedy has said, and they even have discussed it on air in a couple of places about, and I watched it just yesterday. There was this professor, this doctor that had this vaccine. He was so proud of it, he did it on air, and his son died. And then a couple of days later, or weeks or months or something, his daughter died. And it was like, and it was all because of this oleope vaccination. And because there was something that had gotten into it that was the contaminant. But here's the thing. They never took that contaminant out all the way, because there were scientists that said, well, we need that as a catalyst for the rest of the chemicals to interact with the body so that it will be effective. When actually, this thing that they're talking about, it sort of looks like a landmine. And what they found out is that it really isn't useful for anything on its own. But what happens is it gets stuck on things because of them little landminey things, and other chemicals can come along and make it do strange things. And the strange thing is it will interact with the chemical that is now interacting with it, and that things will happen. So I know that's weird, right? Um, but so they still have that landmine in the stuff today. Okay. So I drank the monkey juice with landmines in it, and we thought it was clean, clear, and all that. Nope, landmines are still there. So that's one of the next things he wants to get rid of in making sure that the vaccines are safe. He's going after the landmines. Yep. Yay! Somebody paid attention, right? So, and it's other doctors that have, been teaching him about this, right? So he's already got a bunch of doctors on his side because they're the ones that have been telling him, there are landmines in this stuff, I'm making yogurt from a microbiome called I, I rootery. Most everyone is deficient of it because antibiotics has killed most of all of it. The yogurt is delicious and the benefits are so good. Yeah, I'm ready. So RFK is a really good prime example of the insanity to sanity. Insanity to sanity. They all thought he was crazy. Everything was, and now he's in charge of, human resources and health. And now that folks have listened to him, they went, "Oh, is that what you meant?" Yeah. Ooh. I mean, it's like, duh. So, and here's some sort of an aside to this. I've listened to Cliff High for many years now. And in one of his recent ones this year, I believe, um, in one of his Hello Humans uh, talks was about how this spring was going to be and how the summer was kind of looking from the data that he was collecting and what he was getting out of it, right? And so one of them I watched the other day or listened to actually was that it sort of reiterated the same thing. So, but in one of the, like, either was late last year or early this year, okay, in that, there was going to be something in March, you know, and there were going to things with health and some this and that. And I was like, I personally want to say that I think he hit it. I think that he's hit it because uh, of the of like the RFK thing. Nobody's bitching about him anymore, and or, there's certain things that are like they were jumping up and down, and now they're not, and for whatever reason they've calmed down on that subject. And so, what about this over here? Well, they're still jumping up and down. Okay, but they're probably going to be jumping up and down about that till summer, kind of thing, right? So, but the the weirdness of it for me is that human behavior. I'm gonna say it like this, but I don't know how human behavior can be tracked or plotted using any type of algorithm like that. I'm not trying to make it sound stupid, but I mean, whatever algorithms and things that his little bots go out there and look and take a peek at, and then he has to take what they look at and then run it through a I think of it in terms of back in the old days, is when you got done recording everything, you had to render it down. You still have to render some video and stuff, you know. You add all these different clips and stuff, but to make it one video, you got to render it down, right? So I get lost in Cliff's info, not all of it, but yeah, when he gets into the crypto and some of this stuff, you know, but and you know, and one of the things is that that's something that's going to change here for all of us, and it's been, you know, we've been warned, but you know, Trump really warned us. You know, the United States is getting involved in this. Melania is starting her own blockchain thing, and you know, hey Sandman, what's up? What's my EDC? Is that supposed to be education? Yeah, but I'll tell you what, after listening to him over these years, and last year he hit one um, right on the nose, you know. Sandman, I would, but I'm a convicted felon 35 years ago, and it's too hard for me to get a weapon. Although living in Georgia, we can, you know, carry. So at least I live in a state, yes, as in weapon. Yep. I probably have a holster like a cowboy. You know, really. You know, there was a guy I was in paying the phone bill one day, and he come in and you know, he looked sort of like a deputy or a detective or something, you know, and he was packing on the outside, clear for everybody to see. And I went up and tapped him on the arm and I said, I just want to say thank you. And he said, for what? And I said, for wearing your gun. And I said, I can't, but you can. And I'm proud that you are because you can, you know. I should be able to appeal it. Yes, you got to go through some forms and you got to go down and you got to get with the magistrate and the sheriff's got to look at your stuff and I ain't needed a gun up to now. I don't know if I want to go through all that bullshit to get a gun now. You know, I've got my 22 air rifle over there that will hurt you, you know, and it'll kill a lot of stuff. Um, but I've always wanted um, my 22 Magnum Winchester style back. I love that gun. And, you know, it wasn't a 30-30 or anything like that, but that 22 Magnum with them big shells, that, you know, they were pretty good. And, and the Winchester style, you know, with the lever action, I just love that gun. You know, I'm not into big, you know, boom boom kind of stuff. So, uh, although I've shot some pretty big, you know, when my brother was alive, he had a 56 caliber and a 59 caliber muzzle loader, and we put a hole through a tree one day that big around. I mean, all the way through it. It was like, what? We just thought it would hit it. No, it went all the way through that puppy. Now it wasn't a big tree, but we ended up killing that tree with that 59 caliber. You know. So I don't think there was anything sane about that that came out of that our insanity, other than a woodpecker might have been able to, you know, to get bugs off the dead tree because it died standing straight up. Um, but so in this year, in our near future, um, we have puddled along and drug a bunch of crap with us over these last 4 years plus, to where there's absolutely something in the air. You know, you can just smell it. It's different, whatever it is, and it don't smell like shit. You know, it sort of smells like mouthwash, like fluoride mouthwash. Um, but that, if I were a younger man, I would be out, studying. I'd go back to school. I would be looking for a job coming back. And for all these young folks out there that, what are we going to do? And how's things going to change? How's things going to change? And how's the economy and how's, quit bitching. There's, there will be opportunity. There are so many people, because I've been watching, they've been making it up. No, they ain't. I made myself choke down sitting here to watch some of this stuff because I wanted to see what the man said himself live in color on television. And so somebody in the news can say, he said such and such. Nah, no, he didn't. He said what he said. Don't make up shit. So, but um, it's harder for that mainstream media kind of stuff to make their lies stick because old JDT is doing stuff from the Oval Office in front of God and everybody live on camera. So you can't make this up. Nope. He said such. No, he didn't. But he said such. Nuh-uh. you know, whoops. They got to report the truth. Time keeps on slipping, slipping, slipping into the future. Ooh, that was a good one. I gotta go let my dog in. I gotta have. I got cotton mouth. It feels like a snake done crawled up in there and died. Cotton mouth. Come on, dude. Walk it out. Work it out. What are you doing with that? What are you doing with that? Hmm? But you got your toy? Now don't go scaring the poo out of me. So, but anyway, for those of you who've been hanging around with me for a while or listened, I'm always trying to look at something positive about stuff, right? But I've really been paying attention, probably too much more than I should. But if you're even middle aged, there's an opportunity for you coming up. It depending on where you live, right? I mean, because if they're building an automotive plant or they're going to increase production on some other kind of plant or some other kind of something, um, there are all these other companies that have to support the big company, you know? Yeah, it's a steel company, but they're going to need raw materials. It's a steel company, yeah, but they will still use computers. They will still, the secretary will still have to have paper and envelopes so they will still have to buy things from the local whatever tools or something, right? So regardless of what the business is, they start a business, employ two people, but they're going to be buying stuff to stay in business. That business is going to support other businesses because they need stuff to support their own business, right? It feeds on one another. So you bring a big business in, it's going to make a huge impact in the neighborhood. So people say, well, that's not a big deal. Oh, hell yes, it is. Ask the Northeast, ask Pennsylvania and West Virginia and some places up in there. When there used to be a lot of business, like there used to be a lot of Pittsburgh steel. I mean, it's like, what? Oh, yeah. Pittsburgh was known for steel mills and stuff. And there's these other mills, and many of them are gone. Like Trump said, he said we wouldn't have had a steel mill at all if he hadn't stopped it the last time he was in, right? But they almost lasted this time because of Biden. They were going to sell the steel mill to the Chinese. And he went, nah. So all the steel mill workers were like, we just lost billions of dollars. The Chinese were going to buy from us. And Trump said, no, but I did get the Chinese to lease it. They're not going to buy your plant. They're not going to buy your business, but they're going to lease it. What? Yeah, so you still own it. So Trump didn't screw you out of the deal then, right? Well, no. You're not going to go on strike or nothing. No. How come? Well, because we're going to make even more money off the deal. Why? Well, because they're not buying it. They're going to lease it from us, which means we get to keep the money. And that, um, 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 oh, so, you don't want to import any steel or aluminum, right? The tariff's gone up. And people are starting to get the idea, well, wait a minute, how come the tariffs, 25%? And he goes, do you know what reciprocal means? They're charging us 25%. They are? Well, yeah. Why do you think I'm bitching about it? So they charge us 25%. We're going to charge them 25%. Don't you think that's fair? Well, yeah, I didn't know that's what you were talking about. Is that what reciprocal means? Well, yeah, dumbass. If you'd have went to school, you'd be knowing what I'd be talking about. And so it's like even some ghetto boys know what I'm talking about. Uh, so there are people who see the tariff thing as making a bunch of money, and I see it as a way to bring tariffs down, period. You charge 25%, great. I'll be glad to cut it to 20 if you cut yours to 20. I mean, I'll go as low as 15% if you go with yours 15%. How about that? Instead of 25%, we both cut ours by 10 points and we'll both go at 15 now percent. How about that one? Well, I don't know. then, well, okay, we'll leave it at 25% then. I'll go home. So yeah, reciprocal saw, yeah. Um, so this idea that, wait a minute, we're cheating people and we're doing this, and no, you listen to a bunch of dumbasses for so long that when somebody speaks the truth to you and explains it in plain English, it really isn't that hard to understand. Fluoride, bad. Red dye, bad. Natural dye, good. You know. But so anyway, but see, with the insanity of RFK, bitching about the dyes and stuff, and then there all of a sudden there are people that are going, mothers were going, wait a minute, you mean that dye right there? Oh yeah, it kills people, it kills bugs, it kills animals, it is toxic, and it's in my Fruit Loops. Yep. But Canada has Fruit Loops. They won't buy ours because they make their own Fruit Loops without these bad chemical dyes in them. They've got their own natural dyes they make the Fruit Loops with in Canada. Wait. You know, we're the only country that uses these chemicals as dyes in the cereals of children. Everybody else uses natural stuff. We're the only ones. Oh, you mean you want to take them bad ones out of the cereals? You don't want to stop the cereals. You want them to stop putting poisons in the cereals. That's what you've been bitching about all this time, right, RFK? Yep. That's why everybody said you were crazy, right? Yep. Oh, there's another crazy thing, another piece of insanity that has actually brought some sanity, has brought some clear-headed thinking. Yeah, that well, oh, you're not over here, Richard. I bought these this I'm have said this before, but I'll mention it again. There are these generic Fruit Loops, right, at the dollar store. And I don't know, it's been a year or so now. Uh, and I was like, ooh, when was the last time I had a bowl of Fruit Loops, right? And I mix it, I'll mix two, maybe sometimes three different cereals together. And at least two, one that floats and one that sinks or something. But anyway, so I put some Fruit Loops in the bowl, and I started munching on them and all. And I ate what was in the bowl, but I was like, man, them Fruit Loops just don't. My excuse was these generic Fruit Loops don't taste right. Well, so I left the Fruit Loops out on the counter, and that was back when I had mice running everywhere, and so they had gotten into the corner of the bag, and I could see where they tore the bag open, but that was it. There wasn't anything on the counter. There weren't any little pieces. I could tell that the mice had not been in the bag, right? So I says, well, I don't like them, and the mice don't either. So I took some out of the bag and put it in the bowl for them, for the mice, and just left it out over on the counter, and They wouldn't touch it. They refused to touch the cereal. They knew there was a bunch of mice running around at the time, and they were hungry too. Would not touch that cereal. So then I was like, now that's some shit. So then I took some, a little handful, took it outside and threw it in the cat's dish out there. Mixed it in with their regular cat food. They ate around every single piece of the Fruit Loops and would not eat the Fruit Loops. So then I was having a lot of ants around the house at that time, and the ants kept getting in the cat dish. So the ants got in the cat dish, and there were little tiddly bits, where the cats are chew, and they'll leave little pieces of scrap, right? Well, the ants had got into the dish and were munching on the little tiddly bits around the edges. But the ants wouldn't eat the Fruit Loops. So I took some Fruit Loops and took them out to an ant bed. Now these are South Georgia fire ants, right? And stirred up the nest a little bit and dropped them Fruit Loops in on top of it. Went back the next day because they'd built it all back up and covered it. A lot of times if you drop something inside, they will build up over it and cover it up, right? They ousted the Fruit Loops to build their mound back up. Nothing would eat them. Nothing. I'm like, what the fudge is in those things? But now that, since I hadn't had that kind of cereal in a long time, and now all of a sudden come to find out that, oh, so they've been using, well, no wonder it tastes like shit. They've been using these crazy different chemicals and stuff in them. Yeah, Raisin Bran used to be my favorite, but without teeth, it ain't the same. I lived on cereal and cheese sandwiches for a while. For a while. So, what do you think's going to happen on the 29th? Any of you got any speculation? The red dye in a popular candy is made from anal oils of a beater. I only remember the beaver and oils. Well, you know what they say about old beavers. Never mind. They just shrivel up. Same shit that happened on the 21st, nothing. Yeah, well, that congresswoman who's, you know, it's her birthday and all she wants for her birthday is to see Elon taken down. Um, there's a part of me that's like, it reminds me of the 1960s. And it's like, you know, they're and back in the when they did that thing in Missouri a couple of years back, with the early BLM thingy, when they burnt the I can't remember the name of the town. Oh, hey, Katniss. Yeah, hugs all around. Yeah, but it's been on the news a lot, and that she's been saying it. The congresswoman and Crockett, she's been saying it and publicizing it herself. Plus, all the news outlets and podcasts have picked it up, so they've been putting it out there. So there are plenty of people who've heard about the 29th. And so it's like, so for me, it's like, I didn't think they were crazy enough to throw Molotov cocktails. Yeah, okay, scratch a car with a key. Okay. I've done that stupid shit before. But I did it to the person's car that I was mad at. I didn't do it to somebody else's car I didn't know. No, I did it to the person I hated, So, did that make it right? No, but at least it was a one on one, you know what I mean? So, where this is, one on picking on somebody. Well, I hate him, so I'm gonna scratch yours. That's wrong, period. That's just wrong. But so anyway, um, but this enticing people and one of the things that people haven't listened to, much like they didn't listen to RFK Jr., is that Elon and his team can't do anything except show what they found. uh, President Trump, we found a $500 million going to you know you know learn how monkeys ejaculate on Sundays. And we found this one here. How they're going to teach monkeys how to drive airplanes. And you see this one here. Well, this one is for $500 million. To teach the monkeys how to use condoms. And this was, you know, so, but what folks have not paid attention to, and that as much as they have tried to put the point across, Elon doesn't make the final decision. He doesn't fire anybody. He makes the suggestion. And the head of the department, the EPA, the Department of Energy. The guy said in the cabinet meeting the other day, he says Elon and his team found these big mistakes, and he saved us $500 million. Just in these three things that he found the other day. So he ain't doing it. The heads, the chiefs of staff, and the heads of the departments are making those calls. President Trump is making those calls. But Elon is only the person who's doing the data collecting. Oh, look, boss, we found another one in here. What do you want to do? I'll take care of it, you know. All right, fire them all. Okay, you're fired. So for the fact that people what are we congrats on or on? I missed it. Well, congrats, Cat, whatever it is. I missed it. Um, a macaw riding a wooden skates, that'd be cool. Yeah, I worked at Busch Gardens back in the day. There is no garden anymore, but they had trained birds in the bird section, and some of the macaws they would do all kinds of stuff. You can't beat a monkey on a unicycle or one that rides on an elephant, or a goat. That's kind of cute too. And then there was the German Shepherd that the monkeys used to ride on. Yeah, that would, you know, that's like that unicycle on that was invented by Mr. Mackey on South Park or something. Anyway, LOL to that one. So still to the future, I feel positive for for all of these reasons. I see things coming back where 2, 3 years ago I said they got to start bringing the chips back here, you know, because if we don't and war breaks out, we'll never get another chip for any kind of radio or nothing, because we were already seeing as I was going back to try to learn electronics again, um, that I was finding that some of these resistors and things were backlogged, back ordered all the way to China. And they could be sitting in one of them container ships down there in Panama Canal. But there's um, a delay on a delay on some of these, transistors, resistors, and that kind of stuff. So it's like, and this was before it was really getting tough, you know? And so a couple of years ago, I was like, man, this is going to be rough. If this shit turns, sour on the chip industry, we're going to be screwed. So, but the fact that they're bringing stuff in to make them, those kind of machines that make some of those chips and things are, are, uh, there are things that they can move into a building. They don't have to build a building to move them into or build a building around their stuff. If they find the right building with the right head heights kind of thing and the right square footage, then all they have to do is move the machines in. That's all. They add some electric drops, move the machines in, bring the materials in, and they can start producing. Depending on the source, and what I've seen happen before and with industry, they could be up and running in 6 months. Now, I don't mean necessarily a full batch, top of the line run, but they could be up and running. No, not yet. I knew you were going to ask me. Yeah, making tinctures. Yeah. And I'm going to be sundown. Sundown, you better take care. If I find you've been creeping round my back stairs. Time, I think it's when I'm feeling no pain. Yep. Anyway. All right, my dear friends. It's been lovely hanging out with you. But I've spent 2 hours with Robert, and I spent several hours with y'all. And plus, me and the dog, he's going to get me up early in the morning. And I've got a couple of things to try to wrap up um, now that I've got new tires on my truck. Yay, team. So, but um, if you run across anybody that wants to go bitching about stuff, I promise it's sitting right over there. Um, give them the old one too and say, listen, there are billions of dollars worth of plants coming into the United States. Where do you live? Um, see something that most people don't understand unless you're in the automotive industry. But so Trump said, he said, yeah, have relaxed some tariffs coming out of Canada. And they were like, oh, there you go, already changing your mind. And he goes, no, I'm not changing my mind, but I can be flexible, was his answer. And so what people don't understand is that Ford Motor Company assembles cars in the United States. But guess what they make across the river in Windsor, Canada? That's where they build the engines to the Fords that they build. So every engine, or most of them, right across the bridge, and for every one of them engines, they now have to pay a tariff on. Where before it was like, yeah, we're going to make them over here and we're going to just ship them over there and y'all put them in. And the Americans were like, you're taking our jobs away. Literally across the river, we can see the plant from Detroit. And you're going to make them engines over there. Yep. And then you're going to ship them over here. Yep. So y'all can put the engine in the car. Well, that sucks. Well, now, because of the tariffs, Chrysler and them have to, because there's a Chrysler plant on the other side of the river too. So they're like sitting there going, "Oh shit!" Now I've been to Detroit. I've been through the Rust Bucket placey where the 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 old Chrysler building used to be, and where the old Delco Remy and Chevrolet used to be, and where and I'm like, there are these huge plants that are still there. And so what Trump said the other day is that, yeah, some of these automotive companies have decided to revamp some of their buildings in Detroit. And there's some of them that are like right next to administration building where they used to build stuff. So they're going to revamp some of these old assembly plants and bring the business back to America. That's going to look good for Detroit, really. And you say, well, what's that going to do? Well, that's going to curse the folks, them Canadians on the other side of the river, because they probably will still make engines for cars, but as soon as they get the plant up and running over here on this side of the river, that side of the river is going to lose a bunch of jobs. So you say, well, what's that got to do it? What it means is to, you know, made for America, made in America, make America great again, make, come on. This is all about, yep. So it's all positive information. And folks go, I just don't see it. Yeah, that's because they're still in the insanity phase. They haven't been able to get their heads out of the insanity phase from what the Democrats created, right? So they're still in the insanity phase. But once they can see that, wait a minute, this has been insane, but I see where it's worked out to where there is sanity from the insanity. Well, some bitch, Dave, I see your point. you know, some bitch, Dave, I see your point. Well, listen, my friends, I'm tired. But I love you. It's been great hanging out with you again. Um, I'm still working on my computer. I'm still working on what I gotta delete. Oh, and also, I'm seriously looking into Rumble, and because for the amount of hours and time that I've spent trying to fix this camera shit for YouTube, and then tonight trying to hook up the the live stream with my cell phone, it was giving me a hassle. YouTube didn't want to start, and I'm like, oh no, here we go. So now, as far as I know, I can make a video and upload it. All right, um, but I might be locked out of doing the live stream. But if that happens, I'm going to damn sure be on Rumble. You can count on that. So, anyway, I do continue to pray that each and every day, that each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings from the universe. And my beard is just getting unruly. I don't know what I'm going to do. It's still growing, so at some point I might just go snip. But right now, uh, I'm trying to look like one of those old Confederate soldiers. That's what I look like now to myself. Um, well, love you too, Scotty and Katniss and all y'all time. School time. Yep. Get make some make some eggs and toast and um as a salve. Had to burp there. So, but anyway, um, it's I said, a couple of years ago, I said the future's going to be bumpy. And then what did I say? I said, it's just sort of like waves in the ocean. There's going to be ups and downs, and some of them are going to be way up here, and they're going to drop us way down, and we just need to find a good, inner tube, and strap ourselves in and hang on for the ride. Well, we're in one of them big wave areas, right? Um, by the way, since you brought it up, painful joints, knee joints. Um, Edgar Casey suggested peanut oil and lanolin. Kind of sort of mix the two together a little bit and put it on those joints. Try that. Cowabunga. The wrist. Yeah. I tried it years ago. The lanolin works too on its own, but so anyway, keep it between the ditches. I still feel that there's even for us old people, that as long as we keep shuffling forward, that we all still got a chance. And the biggest, why are we born? Why are we here? It's so that we can experience life. So I ain't done yet. So keep experiencing life, my friends, and be safe about it. Thank you, Mary and Big Dad and Chloe and all y'all. Lose weight, gain muscle. Yes. Skin moisture. Okie doke. You too, Scotty boy. So till next time, John, adios. You too. Yay. And anybody else back there that I can't see at the moment. Yeah, oh, by the way, I am going to have to go in for cataract surgery in a couple of months. Uh, I have to because my eyesight. I went back to the eye doctor, and my eyesight's getting a lot worser. So I got that to look forward to this summer, you know. But anyway, that'll be an adventure, right? All right, my friends. I love you. Namaste. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you. Be safe. Till next time, my friends.